Chapter 2361. Duan Ling Tian, I admit defeat. When Tang Xian's voice entered the ears of the people from the fire worship sect, they felt sorry for the loss of their own kind. After all, Tang Xian was the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism. However, Tang Xian was kneeling in front of Duan Ling Tian, the former guardian of the Zoroastrianism, and he admitted defeat. At this moment, the people from the fire worship sect could hear the humiliation and helplessness in Tang Xian's voice. They could imagine how Tang Xian felt at this moment. You admit defeat? Upon hearing Tang Xian's words, Duan Ling Tian's lips curled up into a sneer. He said indifferently, since you've admitted defeat, die. As soon as Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, his celestial origin energy that was mixed with saint origin energy surged out of his body. With his current cultivation base as an eminent celestial, it would not be difficult for him to kill Tang Xian even if he did not cast the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. Boom, 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 boom. As Duan Ling Tian raised his hand, his energy roared like a furious dragon. It set off a series of explosions as he prepared to strike Tang Xian to avenge Hua Lao, the three-legged golden crow. Wait! Tang Xian cried out as though he was on the brink of death. Duan Ling Tian, you can't kill me. If you kill me, you'll never find out about the Saint Girl's origin and the dangers behind her. Chem? Duan Ling Tian frowned when he heard Tang Xian's words. He withdrew the energy in his hand. Naturally, he knew the Saint Girl Tang Xian was referring to was Kerr. Let him go. Duan Ling Tian said indifferently as though he was talking to the air. When Chen Yiru heard Duan Ling Tian's words, he immediately withdrew the energy that shrouded Tang Xian. At the same time, he did not forget to send a voice transmission to Tang Xian. Don't play any tricks. Otherwise, even if Master wants to kill you, I'll make sure you suffer a fate worse than death. Tang Xian knew Chen Yiru was a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. Chills ran up his spine when he heard Chen Yiru's words. He was not happy that he had regained his freedom. He knew he was in a similar predicament to Chen Yiru, regardless of whether he regained his freedom or not. He's an eminent celestial? However, when Tang Xian rose to his feet and looked at Duan Ling Tian, his expression changed drastically when he sensed the celestial origin energy in Duan Ling Tian's saint origin energy. Tang Xian, in just a few years, the purple-clad young man whom he had regarded as an ant had successfully passed the celestial ascension tribulation and become an eminent celestial. How's this possible? Although Tang Xian was certain Duan Ling Tian was an eminent celestial, he still found it hard to believe. He did not think it was possible at all. Logically speaking, it was impossible for Duan Ling Tian's cultivation base to have such an exaggerated increase in just a few years. Eminent celestial? Lord Sect Leader said Guardian Ling Tian is an eminent celestial? Heavens! It had only been a while, but Guardian Ling Tian had already become an eminent celestial? Is this a joke? Look at Lord Sect Leader. Does he look like he's joking? When Tang Xian discovered Duan Ling Tian was an eminent celestial, the people from Zoroastrianism, from the guardians to the ordinary disciples, were shocked. It had only been a few years since Duan Ling Tian had a four-tribulation bodiless celestial as his servant. Now that they learned Duan Ling Tian had become an eminent celestial, they were even more shocked. They did not expect Duan Ling Tian's servants to be so strong, and he himself was so strong as well. Eminent celestial. Most of them thought Duan Ling Tian was at the peak of the Tao Martial Saint Land. Although eminent celestials were not as strong as Chen Yiru, who was a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, Duan Ling Tian was still an eminent celestial. However, who was Chen Yiru? Chen Yiru was a powerhouse on the Supreme Saint ranking who had dominated the Tao Martial Saint Land 5,000 years ago and had undergone the Celestial Ascension Tribulation 4,000 years ago. Duan Ling Tian, on the other hand, was someone who had come to the upper province from the Debussyi subterranean more than 10 years ago. He was not even 100 years old. For someone who was less than 100 years old to successfully pass the Celestial Ascension Tribulation and become an eminent celestial, how could they not be shocked? Eminent celestial? Chen Yiru had a disdainful expression on his face when he heard the exclamations of the people from the Zoroastrianism. His master was not someone an ordinary eminent celestial could compare to. His master's current strength was comparable to a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial. Even he was no match for him. Speak. Duan Ling Tian glanced at Tang Xian indifferently. Tang Xian finally regained his senses. When he looked at Duan Ling Tian again, his eyes were filled with dread. Initially he thought Duan Ling Tian dared to act so recklessly in front of him because of Chen Yiru, a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. He did not expect Duan Lingtian's cultivation base would surpass his in just a few years. An eminent celestial was an existence that was even more powerful than the current him. Although he was confident he could escape from an eminent celestial with his movement divine ability, he was 100% certain he would not be a match for an eminent celestial in a direct battle. Regarding this, he was still aware of his own limitations. "If I tell you, will you let me live?" Tang Xian asked as he looked at Duan Lingtian. "Do you think you're still qualified to negotiate with me?" Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes when he heard Tang Xian's words. His eyes flashed coldly as though he was about to devour Tang Xian. Tang Xian's heart turned cold as though he had fallen into an ice cave. In the end, he chose to compromise. "The saint girl is the reincarnation of a goddess. This is no secret to us Zoroastrianism," Tang Xian said slowly when he saw Duan Lingtian's cold gaze. "However, I know not many people believe this. Even the few guardians thought that I was talking nonsense and thought that the reincarnation of a goddess was entirely fabricated." Tang Xian glanced at the four guardians of the fire worship sect, Zifeng, Qinghua, Hongyun and Leng Ying. The four of them fell silent when they heard this. Indeed, they thought the sect leader of Zoroastrianism had mentioned the reincarnation of a goddess was a myth. This was because there was no such thing in the history of Zoroastrianism. The sect leader was the one who said the reincarnation of a goddess was the reincarnation of a goddess. It was hard for them to believe this. Although I knew they didn't believe it, I didn't force them to believe it. This is because I know the saint girl is indeed the reincarnation of a goddess. Tang Xian's eyes were trained on Kerr, who was standing next to Duan Lingtian. Tang Xian continued to speak amidst the silence. "Back then, a powerhouse who was like a god from outside the mundane realm appeared before me. His strength was so terrifying that it was beyond my imagination. With just a lift of his hand, he tore the void apart and left a tear that was more than 1,000 meters long in the void." Tang Xian narrowed his eyes when he spoke up to this point. His expression turned extremely solemn. It was as though everything that he had witnessed in the past was happening right before his eyes. "What did you say?" Chen Yiru cried out in shock as soon as Tang Xian finished speaking. "You're saying that person left a tear that was more than 1,000 meters long in the void with just a lift of his hand?" Chen Yiru had also lost his composure when he heard this. The reason he lost his composure like this was naturally because he was the one who had the deepest feeling towards that powerful aura amongst everyone present. Based on what he knew, even the strongest 9 tribulation bodiless celestial in the mundane realm could only leave a tear that was more than 100 meters long in the void when he tore the void apart with all his might. However, Tang Xian had just said that it was more than 1,000 meters long. That powerhouse had left a tear that was more than 1,000 meters long in the void with just a lift of his hand. How could he not lose his composure? A tear that was more than 1,000 meters long? Duan Lingtian's expression turned solemn when he heard Tang Xian's words. Although Duan Lingtian did not know how long a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial could leave behind when he unleashed his full strength like Tang Xian, he could vaguely sense that someone who could create a tear in space that was 1,000 meters long was not a simple person. Even a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial would not be able to do that. A tear that was more than 1,000 meters long? Then how strong is he? As far as I know, only 4 tribulation bodiless celestials and above are capable of tearing apart space and leaving cracks in the void when they attack. However, even a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial can only tear an inch-long tear in the void. A tear that was more than 1,000 meters long? What does that mean? Even the strongest person in the mundane realm, a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial, doesn't have that kind of strength, right? The people from the Zoroastrianism sect, including the 4 guardians, could not help but feel their hearts tremble when they heard this. Is Lord Sect Leader speaking the truth? Why do I feel like I'm listening to a heavenly book? He's not lying to Guardian Ling Tian, is he? It's possible. Many of the Zoroastrianism disciples could not help but whisper among themselves. Although their voices weren't loud, Tang Xian still heard them clearly. Tang Xian was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He couldn't wait to kill all of these gossiping disciples. Today I, Tang Xian, swear on the lightning penalty oath. Tang Xian was worried Duan Lingtian would be suspicious of the words of the Zoroastrianism disciples, so he swore on the lightning penalty oath. Chapter 2362. Tang Xian had sworn on the lightning penalty oath, and he was not killed by the lightning penalty. What he had said earlier was indeed not false in the slightest. Not only were the people from Zoroastrianism shocked, but even Duan Lingtian and the others were shocked as well. How could someone tear a hole in the void that was more than 1,000 meters wide with just a wave of his hand? To them, A person who possessed such ability was indeed like a god. Who's that person? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice as he looked at Tang Xian solemnly. I don't know who that person is as well. Tang Xian shook his head with a wry smile on his face. However, I'm certain he's not from the mundane realm. He must be from the Devata realm. He was the one who taught me the movement divine ability that I mastered. Tang Xian continued to speak. Whoosh. As soon as Tang Xian finished speaking, an uproar broke out among the crowd. Lord Sect Leader's movement divine ability came from a powerhouse who's suspected to have descended from the Devata realm and can tear a hole in the void that's more than 1,000 meters wide with just a wave of his hand? No wonder. No wonder even a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage couldn't do anything to Lord Sect Leader when his cultivation base was at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. As it turns out, that divine ability came from the Devata realm. That makes sense. Since Lord Sect Leader's movement divine ability came from the Devata realm, it's only natural that it's stronger than any movement divine ability in the mundane realm. Initially, I thought Zoroastrianism had such a divine ability. However, it seems like I was wrong. The people from Zoroastrianism discussed among themselves as realization dawned on them. They had long heard of the movement divine ability their Lord Sect Leader of Zoroastrianism had mastered. They knew it was widely acknowledged as the #1 movement divine ability in the Tao Martial Saint Land. However, they only found out now. As it turned out, the movement divine ability that Lord Sect Leader of Zoroastrianism had mastered came from the Devata realm. This person, could it be related to my wife? Duan Lingtian looked at Tang Xian and asked in a low voice. He believed that Tang Xian would not mention this person for no reason. Exactly. Tang Xian nodded before he continued to say, that godlike powerhouse said the saint was his cousin in her past life. Cousin? Duan Lingtian raised his eyebrows and subconsciously glanced at Kerr, only to see Kerr's blank and puzzled face. Obviously she didn't know anything either. However, after knowing that the powerful man was Kerr's cousin in her previous life, Duan Lingtian's tensed face gradually relaxed. To the average person, the concept of past and present lives was illusory. However, Duan Lingtian had personally experienced it before. Not only that, but he also knew that there was someone who had lived 3 lives with the same cultivation method. That person was none other than the Reincarnation Emperor Wu, whom he had met when he first arrived in this world. The Reincarnation Emperor Wu cultivated the 3 lives rebirth technique. After cultivating 3 lives, he would be able to reach the peak of the cultivation method and possess extraordinary strength. Unfortunately, the Reincarnation Emperor Wu had chosen to possess Duan Lingtian's current body during his 3rd life. Coincidentally, Duan Lingtian's soul had transmigrated from Earth and occupied his current body first. Moreover, his soul didn't belong to this world. Under the restrictions of the laws, the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's soul was completely annihilated when he tried to crush Duan Lingtian's soul. Duan Lingtian's path in this world was the starting point, and he had walked step by step until today. For this reason, Duan Lingtian believed in the concept of past and present lives. Although that person said the saint was his cousin in her past life, when he appeared before me and mentioned the saint's past life, a strong desire to possess her could be seen in his eyes. Tang Xian dropped another bombshell when he saw Duan Lingtian heaving a sigh of relief. I'm afraid he wasn't just a cousin in the saint's past life. I'm guessing he was also one of the saint's admirers in her past life. A hint of mockery could be seen in the depths of Tang Xian's eyes when he reached the end of his sentence. It was as though Duan Lingtian's wife had an admirer in her past life. Tang Xian felt extremely pleased and relieved. Kerr's admirer in her past life? Duan Lingtian's expression darkened when he heard Tang Xian's words. Although he kept telling himself that Kerr was Kerr and that Kerr's past life was Kerr's past life, he was still displeased to hear that the person was one of Kerr's admirers in her past life. He came to the mundane realm just to tell you this? Duan Lingtian's gaze turned cold when he looked at Tang Xian again. Since he knows who his cousin's reincarnation is, why didn't he bring her away? Why did he leave her in the mundane realm? Duan Lingtian was puzzled by this. If the person was Kerr's cousin in her past life and was one of Kerr's admirers in her past life, there was no reason for him to leave Kerr alone. I asked him the same question before, Tang Xian said. Tang Xian said, however, he didn't give me a direct answer. He only asked me to take good care of the Holy Maiden. After giving me some benefits and promising me other benefits, he left in a hurry. He only said that he would come back to take the Holy Maiden away. As for who he is and whether he's really from the Devata realm, I don't know. However, based on his bearing, it was as though he was a celestial being. Tang Xian finished his sentence in one breath. Although it had been almost 100 years, Tang Xian's expression was still grim when he spoke about the celestial being. Did he say when he'll be back? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice as his eyes flashed. His tone had turned even colder. He didn't say when he'll be back. When he left, he only said he'll be back in 100 years. It's been almost 100 years since he left, Tang Xian said. Duan Lingtian nodded. Is that all? Duan Lingtian asked. Tang Xian was taken aback when he heard Duan Lingtian's question. Chem? Let me ask you. Is that all you know about that person? Duan Lingtian asked. That's all I know. Tang Xian nodded. In that case, since you're willing to cooperate, I'll give you a quick death. As soon as Tang Xian nodded, Duan Lingtian's celestial origin energy that was mixed with saint origin surged out of his body again. It was as though countless angry dragons were roaring. Horror dawned on Tang Xian's face when he saw Duan Lingtian's strength skyrocketing as though he was about to kill him. He did not expect Duan Lingtian would suddenly attack him when he was unprepared. However, Tang Xian was the sect leader of fire worship sect after all. He had experienced hundreds of battles. Even if the situation was critical, he still mobilized the saint origin in his body to cast his movement divine ability to escape. Umph. A cold snort rang in the air, causing Tang Xian's expression to change drastically. As soon as Tang Xian's expression changed drastically, a wave of energy that was even more powerful than Duan Lingtian's surged out like an ocean and engulfed Tang Xian completely. Before Tang Xian's saint origin could escape from his body, it was forcefully pushed back into his body. It was as though his saint origin had turned into a pool of stagnant water. No matter how hard he tried, his saint origin remained motionless. How could I have forgotten about him? Tang Xian finally remembered that Duan Lingtian had a servant who was a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. Despair rose in his heart. Just as Tang Xian was about to lose all hope, boom. The energy from Duan Lingtian's every move wrapped around Tang Xian and engulfed him like maggots. Right now, Tang Xian had all the strength in his body, but he couldn't use it. He didn't have the strength to fight back. Under such circumstances, Duan Lingtian's attack easily annihilated his opponent without leaving any traces behind. Tang Xian, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, was at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, and was ranked 4th on the Supreme Saint ranking. He had died. Immediately the entire place fell into a dead silence. The group of people from Zoroastrianism could not do anything even though they had witnessed the death of their sect leader of Zoroastrianism. Even if they had the time, they would not have dared to do anything. In front of an eminent celestial and a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, there was nothing they could do. Moreover, they would only infuriate their opponents and bring death upon themselves. Walao! Did you see that? I've killed Tang Xian. I've avenged you. After killing Tang Xian, Duan Lingtian raised his head and looked up at the sky. He let out a roar that seemed to shake the heavens, venting the emotions that he had suppressed for a long time. At this moment, the people from Zoroastrianism finally realized that Duan Lingtian had killed Tang Xian. Duan Lingtian had killed their sect leader of Zoroastrianism to avenge Tang Xian. That's Lingtian's voice. He said he killed Tang Xian? Tang Xian. Isn't he Lord Sect Leader? Impossible. He killed Lord Sect Leader? A commotion broke out in the Zoroastrianism's estate. Don't tell me he's really the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect? If he's the successor of the Fog Rain progeny of the Seven Absolute sect, he's also the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect. Based on the hatred the Seven Absolute sect has for the three great sects in the Fire Worship sect, I'm afraid they won't let us off today. He won't kill our Zoroastrianism after killing Lord Sect Leader, right? Chapter 2363. With the death of Tang Xian, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, the members of Zoroastrianism, including the four guardians, looked at Duan Lingtian anxiously. They could only hope that Duan Lingtian was not the successor of the Fog Rain progeny and the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect. Otherwise, based on the enmity between Zoroastrianism and the Seven Absolute sect, Zoroastrianism would be doomed. The atmosphere was silent for a long time. Since Duan Lingtian did not speak, no one dared to speak. From today onward, Ganru Yen will be the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Duan Lingtian finally spoke. As soon as he opened his mouth, he made a decision on who would be the next sect leader of Zoroastrianism. Duan Lingtian directly named his wife, Ker's sister, Ganru Yen, as the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism. Ganru Yen was stunned. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, the members of Zoroastrianism shifted their attention to Gan Ruyen, causing Gan Ruyen to instantly become the center of attention. If any of you are unwilling or unconvinced, feel free to voice it out now. Duan Lingtian continued to speak. Unwilling? Unconvinced? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, the members of Zoroastrianism felt bitter. After witnessing the strength of Duan Lingtian, an eminent celestial, and the strength of the four tribulation bodiless celestial by Duan Lingtian's side, even if they were unwilling or unconvinced, how could they dare to voice it out? It seems like there's no one who is unwilling or unconvinced. After a long while, Duan Lingtian said indifferently, in that case it's decided. After Tang Xian, Gan Ruyen will be the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism. I can't do it. Gan Ruyen said anxiously when she regained her senses. Presently, she didn't have the cold and elegant appearance from before, and she was completely like a bird that was startled by the twang of a bow. She was frightened by Duan Lingtian's sudden decision. He wanted her to be the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism? How was she worthy? Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian looked at Duan Lingtian said Duan Lingtian looked at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian said as he glanced at Gan Ruyen. Without waiting for Gan Ruyen's reply, Duan Lingtian looked at the four guardians of Zoroastrianism and asked, "For guardians, am I right?" Yes. Yes, Zifeng, Hong Yun, and Leng Ying nodded with a complicated expression on their faces. Even Leng Ying, who had a bad temper, became as docile as a cat after witnessing Duan Lingtian's strength. As for Qinghua, naturally he had no objections. After all, he was Gan Ruyen's master. If Gan Ruyen became the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism, even without Duan Lingtian's pressure, he would still do his best to support her. Ruyen, you have a good sister. Qinghua naturally knew that the reason Duan Lingtian appointed Gan Ruyen as the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism was because of his wife, Gan Ruyen's twin sister. He sighed inwardly, but at the same time he was happy for Gan Ruyen. This was because he knew, since Duan Lingtian had said so, the matter had already been decided. Although Duan Lingtian had already announced his departure from Zoroastrianism. However, even if Duan Lingtian had nothing to do with Zoroastrianism, with his and Chen Yiru's strength, they would still be able to decide who would become the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism. In this world where the strong were respected, the one with the biggest fist was the absolute truth. When Gan Ruyen opened her mouth to speak, Duan Lingtian interrupted her. You'll be the sect leader of Zoroastrianism for now. If you don't want to be the sect leader in the future, you can find a suitable person to inherit the position of sect leader of Zoroastrianism. Moreover, in the future you won't only have 4 protectors to support you in Zoroastrianism. I'll ask Sandao to keep the 2 protectors by his side to support you. Duan Lingtian looked at Chen Yiru and asked indifferently, Sandao, I'll ask the 2 protectors by your side to support my wife's sister. You won't have any objections, right? Master, you must be joking. How can Sandao have any objections? Chen Yiru quickly shook his head. At the same time, he turned to look at the 2 protectors behind him and said in a deep voice, both of you swear on the lightning penalty oath. From today onward, you'll serve Miss Ruyen as your master. When Chen Yiru heard Duan Lingtian said Gan Ruyen was his wife's sister, he realized he had misunderstood. Gan Ruyen was not his master's wife. Yes, master. Both the skinny and burly middle-aged men did not dare to slack off when they heard Chen Yiru's order. They quickly swore on the lightning penalty oath to serve Gan Ruyen as their master. Miss Ruyen. At this moment, Chen Yiru looked at Gan Ruyen and said with a faint smile on his face, You've seen one of my 2 servants fight. His cultivation base is at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. He's only half a step away from breaking through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. I'm sure he'll break through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage in a few years. The other one is at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Chen Yiru explained to Gan Ruyen about the burly middle-aged man and the skinny middle-aged man as he spoke. Then he added, with their strength, I'm sure they'll be able to help you, Miss Ruyen. 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage? 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage? Chen Yiru's words were like a clap of thunder to the people from the fire worship sect. They were so shocked that they were dumbfounded. Since when did powerhouses at the 8th and 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage become so common? After all, the strongest person in their group, Zifeng, was only at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. After Tang Xian, the former sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, had passed away, the Zoroastrianism no longer had any powerhouses at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, the new sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, Ganru Yen, suddenly had a servant at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage and a servant whose strength was not inferior to Zifeng. In the past, I've never heard of the two of them. It seems like they rarely appear in front of people. Many people from the Zoroastrianism whispered among themselves as they looked at the two people behind Chenyiru. One was at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage while the other was at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. If it were not for the fact that they rarely appeared in public, they would definitely be ranked at the top of the Supreme Saint ranking. Before today, only the top 4 people on the Supreme Saint ranking are at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage or above. I suddenly feel like the Supreme Saint ranking is not authoritative at all. It's one thing if it doesn't look for bodiless celestials in the Tao Martial Saint land, but it doesn't even look for reclusive powerhouses at the 8th and 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. There are 2 reclusive powerhouses at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage and the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage standing in front of us. Who knows how many reclusive powerhouses there are in the Tao Martial Saint land? The Supreme Saint ranking. That's all there is to it. The group of people from the Zoroastrianism who were present on the scene began to look down on the Supreme Saint ranking. They felt the Supreme Saint ranking was not authoritative at all. However, they did not think about it. If reclusive powerhouses did not appear in public, who would know about their existence? To a certain extent, it was understandable that the Supreme Saint ranking did not look for them. Guardian Ling Tian. Qinghua, one of the 3 Zoroastrianism guardians, asked Duan Ling Tian through voice transmission, "Earlier you said you're the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 absolute sect. You must be joking, right?" This question was not only in the minds of the 3 Zoroastrianism guardians, but it was also in Duan Ling Tian's mind. However, it was inconvenient for the other 3 Zoroastrianism guardians to ask Duan Ling Tian directly. No matter what, he was the master of Ganru Yen, the elder sister of Duan Ling Tian's wife. Duan Ling Tian did not mind Qinghua's question. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The group of people from the Zoroastrianism guardians shifted their attention to Duan Ling Tian when they heard Qinghua's question. They were curious about this as well. Guardian Ling Tian must be joking, right? If he's really the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, it means he's the current sect leader of the 7 absolute sect. Based on the enmity between the 7 absolute sect and the Zoroastrianism guardians, if he's the sect leader of the 7 absolute sect, he can easily annihilate the Zoroastrianism guardians. I think Guardian Ling Tian is joking as well. Earlier he appointed Qinghua's direct disciple, Miss Ru Yen, as the new sect leader of the Zoroastrianism guardians. This means he doesn't intend to annihilate the Zoroastrianism guardians. I don't think he's from the 7 absolute sect. That's right. If he's from the 7 absolute sect, it'll be easy for him and his bodiless celestial to annihilate the Zoroastrianism guardians. The group of Zoroastrianism guardians whispered among themselves. They did not think Duan Ling Tian was from the 7 absolute sect. Joking? Duan Ling Tian shook his head when he heard Qinghua's question. His expression turned solemn as he said, "I'm not sure." Then he said with a straight face, "I, Duan Ling Tian, am indeed the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny and the current sect leader of the 7 absolute sect. Naturally, I have my reasons for not annihilating the Zoroastrianism guardians. From today onward, I, Duan Ling Tian, am no longer a member of the Zoroastrianism guardians. I have nothing to do with the Zoroastrianism guardians." Not only did Duan Ling Tian confirm that he was from the 7 absolute sect, but he also made a solemn declaration. From today onward, he was no longer a member of the Zoroastrianism guardians. He had nothing to do with the Zoroastrianism guardians. The moment Duan Ling Tian's words left his mouth, the entire place burst into an uproar. Guardian Ling Tian. Is he really from the 7 absolute sect? Not only is he from the 7 absolute sect, but he's also the successor of the Fog Rain progeny. He's the current sect leader of the 7 absolute sect. If news of this spreads, I'm afraid the entire upper province of the Tao Martial Saint land will be shaken, right? The people from the fire worship sect sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw this. Chapter 2364. Master. The people from fire worship sect were still in shock when Chen Yiru looked at Duan Ling Tian with a grave expression on his face. What's wrong? Duan Ling Tian raised an eyebrow in confusion when he saw Chen Yiru's troubled expression. This was his first time seeing Chen Yiru like this since he had acknowledged him as his master. He did not know why Qin Ru was behaving in such a manner. Master, I don't think it's appropriate for Zoroastrianism to spread the news about me and bodiless celestials. Qin Ru voiced his concerns. After all, the dragons and phoenixes have forbidden the bodiless celestials in the Tao Martial Saint Land from revealing their identities and spreading the news about bodiless celestials on a large scale. If news about me and bodiless celestials spread through Zoroastrianism, it won't be difficult for them to find out I'm the culprit. If they find out I'm the culprit, it'll definitely affect you, Master. Qin Ru's expression turned even more solemn as he spoke. That's true. Duan Lingtian nodded in agreement when he heard Qin Ru's words. Although his strength was comparable to a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial, he was still a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial. However, there were 8 tribulation bodiless celestials in the dragons and phoenixes clans. Even if there were no 8 tribulation bodiless celestials, there would definitely be 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. He was not a match for a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. For this reason, Duan Lingtian knew he had to keep a low profile before he was strong enough to challenge the dragons and phoenixes. Indeed, it's not appropriate for the fire worship sect to spread this news. However, I hope everyone knows about the bodiless celestials. Now that the bodiless celestials from the devil clans have appeared, we can't let the bodiless celestials in the Tao Martial Saint Land stay out of this. Duan Lingtian said slowly, naturally we'll have to think about this carefully. After some discussion, Duan Lingtian and Qin Ru came to a decision. Then he asked the members of the fire worship sect to swear on the lightning penalty oath that they would not spread any news about Qin Ru, a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial. As for information about the Duan Lingtian, there were no restrictions. If news of what happened today spreads out, I'm sure Tianwu Xuanai and the others will know that I'm the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 absolute sect, and the sect leader of the 7 absolute sect. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. At the same time he was looking forward to meeting his old friends, especially Feng Tianwu. Tianwu. It won't be long before we meet again. When he thought of Feng Tianwu, Duan Lingtian's face also revealed a touch of gentleness. Up until now, apart from his 2 wives, Ke, Li Fei and Feng Tianwu were the only ones who enjoyed his gentleness. Along the way, although there were many women around him, until now, only these 3 women had truly moved his heart. Perhaps he might have feelings for the other women, but he forced himself not to be tempted. The reason for this was mostly because of his responsibility towards the 3 women. Sandao, go to the central region and spread the news about bodiless celestials. I want everyone in the Tao Martial Saint Land to know that there's a group of powerhouses stronger than eminent celestials hiding in the Tao Martial Saint Land. They're bodiless celestials who have failed the heavenly tribulation. Duan Lingtian said to Qin Ru after he was done instructing Sandao about the Zoroastrianism. Yes, Master. Qin Ru nodded and left the Zoroastrianism. After Qin Ru left, Duan Lingtian brought his wife, Ke and daughter, Duan Si Ling, to the floating island where the sect leader of Zoroastrianism resided. It was the cultivation place of Gan Ru Yen, the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism. I'll leave the rest to you. Duan Lingtian said to Duan Lingtian. Remember, from today onward, you're the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. If anyone disobeys you, you can ask your 2 servants to kill them. When Duan Lingtian brought his wife and daughter away, he left these words behind. Duan Lingtian's words were directed at Gan Ru Yen, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. It was as though she was trying to prove Duan Lingtian's words. Whoosh, whoosh. As soon as Duan Lingtian left, the 2 servants by Qin Ru's side, the burly middle-aged man and the skinny middle-aged man, appeared behind Gan Ru Yen and escorted her. One of them was a powerhouse at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage while the other was a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Their auras surged out of their bodies, causing the people from Zoroastrianism to feel a sense of oppression. Currently, Gan Ru Yen was escorted by the 2 powerhouses with domineering auras. She was like a queen who ruled over heaven and earth. He left the matter to me just like that? When Gan Ru Yen finally regained her senses, she could not help but smile bitterly. However, she knew Duan Lingtian did this out of kindness. Otherwise, with her qualifications, it would have taken her at least 100 years to become the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. Thank you, Brother Tian. On the other hand, after Duan Lingtian brought Ke and their daughter to settle down, Ke immediately looked at Duan Lingtian and said emotionally, "Silly girl, she's your sister. Naturally, she's my sister as well. It's only right for me to help her. You don't have to thank me." Duan Lingtian naturally knew why Ke was thanking him. She was thanking him for helping her sister become the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. After all, it was a great honor for Ganru Yen, a disciple of Zoroastrianism. As the saying went, a general is a general. A soldier who does not want to be a general is not a good soldier. As a disciple of Zoroastrianism, Ganru Yen, naturally, was not indifferent about becoming the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. Moreover, it's beneficial for me if she becomes the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Duan Lingtian added. However, when Kerr heard Duan Lingtian's words, she shook her head. Brother Tian, you don't have to comfort me with these words. I know very well that with your current strength, you can easily support someone to become the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. It might not be as good as my sister. Kerr was not stupid. Naturally, she knew her man could easily support someone to become the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. At the same time, he could make that person swear on the lightning penalty oath to serve him as their master. When Duan Lingtian saw Kerr's intelligence, he could not help but smile awkwardly. Then he turned to look at Duan Xiling, who was standing at the side. Xiling, why aren't you saying anything? Father, are you really going to leave Mother and me soon? Duan Xiling asked reluctantly as she looked at Duan Lingtian. Silly girl, what nonsense are you talking about? Duan Lingtian shook his head. He found his daughter's words strange. I'm not talking nonsense. Duan Xiling puffed up her cheeks and said solemnly, earlier, I heard someone say that you won't be able to stay in the Dao Martial Saint Land for long after you become an eminent celestial. Soon you'll ascend to the Devata realm. Upon hearing Duan Xiling's words, Kerr, who was standing at the side, could not help but tremble slightly. In fact, she had already mentally prepared herself for Duan Lingtian to ascend to the Devata realm after he became an eminent celestial. However, now that her daughter had mentioned it, the reluctance hidden in the depths of her heart rose once again, and it could not be stopped. As a result, her mood instantly became downcast. Duan Lingtian did not expect his daughter to bring this up. He was speechless. Although he could temporarily lie to his daughter, what about in the future? After he ascended to the Devata realm, would his lies not be exposed? Duan Lingtian did not want his daughter to think of him as a liar. He wanted his daughter to think of him as perfect and flawless. Don't worry, Xiling. Although your father has become an eminent celestial, there's still a long way to go before he can ascend to the Devata realm. Upon seeing Duan Lingtian's dilemma, the considerate Kerr quickly suppressed her reluctance and tried to persuade her daughter. Duan Lingtian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this. Today's Zoroastrianism was destined to be chaotic. This was because Tang Xian, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, had died. Moreover, he had died at the hands of Ling Tian, the former guardian of Zoroastrianism. Guardian Ling Tian announced his departure from Zoroastrianism not because Lord Sect Leader is unwilling to let him and the saint be together, but because he's the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, and the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect. It didn't take long for the news to spread throughout Zoroastrianism. In an instant, the entire Zoroastrianism was in an uproar. It had only been a few years since the Seven Absolute sect appeared. Apart from the successor of the first Absolute, the Fog Rain progeny, who had not appeared for a long time, the successors of the other six Absolutes had appeared one after another. Moreover, they had made a name for themselves in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. For a long time, even those who practiced Zoroastrianism were curious about the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. However, they would never have imagined that Yi Qingyu would be so arrogant. As it turned out, the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, was Ling Tian, the former guardian of Zoroastrianism. Duan Lingtian killed Lord Sect Leader as soon as his identity was exposed? How's that possible? Lord Sect Leader was at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. With a movement divine ability that was widely acknowledged as the #1 movement divine ability in the Dao Martial Saint Land, even an eminent celestial might not be able to kill him. No matter what, it's a foregone conclusion that Lord Sect Leader was killed by Duan Lingtian. Since Duan Lingtian is the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect and has killed Lord Sect Leader, does this mean he's going to annihilate Zoroastrianism? Chapter 2365. While the disciples of Zoroastrianism were still in a state of panic, a voice rang in the air and calmed them down. After Duan Lingtian killed Lord Sect Leader, the four guardians immediately appointed Ganru Yen, Guardian Qinghua's direct disciple, as the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism. As everyone knows, apart from being Guardian Qinghua's direct disciple, Ganru Yen is also the twin sister of our saint of Zoroastrianism. Due to her relationship with our saint, Duanling Tian didn't intend to destroy Zoroastrianism. Apart from that, our new sect leader of Zoroastrianism has issued an order. From today onward, those who practice Zoroastrianism are no longer allowed to be hostile to the Seven Absolute Sect, and they're not allowed to attack the members of the Seven Absolute Sect. The disciples of Zoroastrianism heaved a sigh of relief when they heard this. The four guardians are wise. Our sect leader is wise. At the same time, similar voices were heard everywhere in Zoroastrianism. They praised the four guardians of Zoroastrianism for appointing Ganru Yen as the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism. Because of this, Zoroastrianism was spared from death. Otherwise, if Duanling Tian had made his move to destroy Zoroastrianism, they would not have been able to escape death. As for the praise for the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Ganru Yen, it was naturally because of Ganru Yan's order to no longer oppose the Seven Absolute Sect. In other words, as long as the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism remained in office, Zoroastrianism would no longer have to worry about the threat from the Seven Absolute Sect. Long live our sect leader. We swear allegiance to our sect leader. Everyone in Zoroastrianism supported the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Ganru Yen. All of this was part of Duanling Tian's plan. Zoroastrianism was closely related to the dragons and phoenixes. For this reason, Duanling Tian did not want news of Ganru Yen becoming the sect leader of Zoroastrianism to spread. Currently, not only did the Zoroastrianism quickly accept Ganru Yen as their new sect leader, but they also loved and supported her. Even the former sect leader, Tang Xian, did not receive such treatment. Guardian Ling Tian is not only heaven-defying in the martial Tao, but he's also extremely intelligent. With his arrangements, not only did the four of us become more respected in the sect, but he also solidified the position of the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism in the sect. Zifeng could not help but sigh when the four guardians of Zoroastrianism gathered together. That's right. Even when sect leader Tang Xian was still around, the people in the sect did not support him as much as they do now. Guardian Hong Yun nodded. Initially, I was worried that the people in the sect would criticize our sect leader for becoming the sect leader of Zoroastrianism at such a young age. I didn't expect that after Ling Tian's arrangements, the people in the sect would completely approve of our sect leader. Lung Ying could not help but sigh emotionally. Then, he looked at Qinghua with a complicated expression on his face. Guardian Qinghua, you've accepted a good disciple. From now on, you're not only a guardian of the fire worship sect, but you're also the sect leader's master. I didn't expect that girl to have such a fortuitous encounter as well. Qinghua shook his head. A hint of relief could be seen in the depths of his eyes. He felt that he had not lived in vain to have such a disciple in this lifetime. The four guardians of Zoroastrianism still addressed Duanling Tian as Guardian Ling Tian. It was as though they had forgotten that Duanling Tian was a disciple of the Zoroastrianism sect. Duanling Tian was no longer a member of Zoroastrianism. He was no longer a member of Zoroastrianism. However, Lord Sect Leader's declaration has, to a certain extent, offended Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect. Guardian Hong Yun frowned. After all, since ancient times, Zoroastrianism, Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect have always worked together against the Seven Absolute sect. Now that Zoroastrianism has declared that we're no longer enemies with the Seven Absolute sect, the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect have no doubt that Zoroastrianism has become a deserter. This is indeed troublesome. Guardian Zifeng nodded as a frown appeared on his face. Guardian Lung Ying snorted coldly and said, So what if the two great sects are unhappy? Do you think they can interfere with the decisions of Zoroastrianism? Even if they come knocking on our door to denounce us, do you think we're afraid of them? When Guardian Lung Ying thought about how the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism had a powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage and a quasi-ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage, as well as Duanling Tian who was an eminent celestial and a four-tribulation bodiless celestial by Duanling Tian's side, he felt reassured. In his opinion, this was not the case. It was better for Zoroastrianism to be on good terms with the Seven Absolute sect than to be on bad terms with them. At the very least, this was the case for now. If he had to choose, he would rather offend Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect than offend the Seven Absolute sect. The current Seven Absolute sect was too powerful. Although Zoroastrianism and the Seven Absolute sect had a deep enmity in the past, Lung Ying felt that no matter how great the enmity was, it would gradually fade away as time passed. At the very least, he did not hate the Seven Absolute sect. There's no need for Zoroastrianism to be afraid of them. Put aside Ling Tian and the bodiless celestial by his side, even if they don't make a move, the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect won't be able to do anything to us. Jianghu chimed in, whether it's the Zhuangzi Buddhism or the Heaven Divination sect, there's no eminent celestial in this world. As for bodiless celestials, there's no such thing as bodiless celestials in the two great sects or the Zoroastrianism. It was not a secret to the high-ranking officials of the three great sects that there were no bodiless celestials in the three great sections. It's strange. Although there aren't many bodiless celestials in the Tao Martial Saint Land, there should be quite a number of them. Why haven't there been any bodiless celestials in the three great sects? Guardian Hong Yun was puzzled. I find it strange as well. Many of the ancestors in the three great sects had attracted the celestial ascension tribulation. However, apart from those who succeeded, those who failed disappeared without a trace. It was as though they had been turned into dust by the heavenly tribulation. Jianghu couldn't help but sigh. Could it be that our three great sects have suffered some sort of curse? Is it because we're destined to never have bodiless celestials? This has always been a mystery. It's a mystery that the three great sects still haven't solved. After listening to the four guardians of the Zoroastrianism, they did not know the answer to their question at all. The bodiless celestials from the Zoroastrianism, Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect were all taken away by the dragons and phoenixes. They had been separated from the three great sects and stayed with the dragons and phoenixes. The dragons and phoenixes did this to imprison the loose immortal experts of the three great sections. They were deeply afraid that one or two monstrous existences would appear among those loose immortals and lead the three great sects to break away from their control and surpass them. As the overlords of the Tao Martial Saint Land since time immemorial, the dragons and phoenixes had long been accustomed to being superior. They were unwilling to let a third force that was on par with them appear. Most importantly, they were unwilling to accept that the forces they supported could stand shoulder to shoulder with them, or even surpass them. Holy land of Zoroastrianism, above the holy island. Behind the clouds on the highest floating island. If that's the case, your position as the new sect leader has been secured. Congratulations. Duan Lingtian looked at Gan Ruyen who had just arrived and said with a smile. Thank you. Gan Ruyen expressed her gratitude with a serious expression on her face. She knew very well that Duan Lingtian was not an ordinary person. It was all thanks to Duan Lingtian that she was able to become the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism and win the hearts of the people in Zoroastrianism in just a few days. Since you're Ker's sister, you're my sister as well. There's no need for thanks between us. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Sister? Just sister? Gan Ruyan's eyes dimmed when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. She felt slightly disappointed. Naturally, she did not voice her thoughts out loud. Although Gan Ruyen was unwilling to admit it, she had no choice but to admit it. After spending some time together in the lower province of the Tao Martial Saint Land, she had unknowingly fallen in love with this man before her. This man was handsome, strong, gentle, and considerate. Although many of his good points were only displayed in front of his younger sister, she was still attracted to him, causing her to sink deeper and deeper into him step by step. At this moment she could not help but fall in love with him. However, she knew very well that this was not the case for her. She knew this feeling was destined to be buried in the depths of her heart. It would not end well. After taking a deep breath, Gan Ruyen shifted her gaze away from Duan Lingtian to the two beautiful figures in the courtyard. Her twin sister Ker was teaching her niece, Duan Siling, how to use the sword. What do you plan to do about Ker's past life? If her cousin in her past life is as powerful as Tang Xian said, I'm afraid he's not only powerful in the mundane realms, but he's also a powerhouse in the Devata realms. Gan Ruyen asked Duan Lingtian. He can tear a tear in the void that's more than 1,000 meters wide with just a wave of his hand. Fear still lingered in Gan Ruyen's heart when she recalled Tang Xian's words. No matter who Ku Er was in her past life, she is still my, Duan Lingtian's wife. No one can take her away from me. Unless I die. Chapter 2366. No matter who Ku Er was in her past life, she's still my, Duan Lingtian's wife. No one can take her away from me. Unless I die. Duan Lingtian's words echoed in Gan Ruyen's ears. It caused a subtle change in the way Gan Ruyen looked at Duan Lingtian. If he's willing to do this for me, I'll have no regrets even if I die now. At this moment, Gan Ruyen could not help but have this thought in her mind. I still have some matters to attend to. I'll take my leave first. Gan Ruyen rose to her feet and looked at Duan Lingtian. All right. Duan Lingtian nodded, but his eyes never left his wife Ke, who was standing in the distance and teaching his daughter, Duan Si Ling. It was as though Ke was the only person left in his world. For this reason, Duan Ling Tian did not notice the slight hint of disappointment that flashed in Gan Ruyan's eyes. After Gan Ruyan left the courtyard, she left the floating island under her feet. "This is all I can do for you now," Duan Ling Tian muttered to herself. Killing intent flashed in Gan Ruyan's eyes as soon as she left. In the past, those who had offended Duan Ling Tian directly or indirectly in Zoroastrianism had been sentenced to death by her. A bloodbath ensued. Naturally, Duan Ling Tian was unaware of this. Those who had offended him directly or indirectly in the past were like ants in his eyes. He did not care about them at all. There was no need for him to settle old scores with them. Gan Ruyan knew this as well. That was why she decided to help Duan Ling Tian get rid of those people. Meanwhile, the news that the former guardian of Zoroastrianism, Duan Ling Tian, was actually the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, spread like wildfire in the western region. Guardian Ling Tian from the Saint sect, the strongest person after the sect leader of the Saint sect, is actually the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect? Is this for real? Many people in the western region found it hard to believe when they first heard the news. This was because the difference in strength was just too great. Zoroastrianism and the Seven Absolute sect were sworn enemies. This was not a secret in the Dao Martial Saint land. Currently, someone was saying that Ling Tian was the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, the first absolute, the Fog Rain progeny, the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect. They found this hard to accept. The news came from the saint, so of course it's true. More and more people were convinced of this. At this moment, those who were skeptical no longer had any doubts. If the news came from the saint sect, then it must be true. However, I still find it hard to believe that Ling Tian, the former guardian of the saint sect, is the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect? The people in the western region were deeply shocked by this news. However, the news that shocked them even more had yet to come. Duan Ling Tian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, killed Tang Xian, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, as soon as his identity was exposed. After a few years, Duan Ling Tian's cultivation base has already become an eminent celestial. When this news spread, it immediately caused the entire western region to be shaken. It was as if a violent earthquake had occurred. Lord Sect leader of the Saint sect was killed? Lord Sect leader of the Saint sect was killed by Guardian Ling Tian? Oh, how's this possible? Guardian Ling Tian was widely acknowledged as the strongest person below the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage a few years ago. He hasn't even broken through to the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage yet. How did he become an eminent celestial and kill Lord Sect leader of the Saint sect in just a few years? Are you kidding me? A person who wasn't even at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage 4 years ago has become an eminent celestial? Unbelievable. When the people in the western region heard that Duan Ling Tian was an eminent celestial and had killed Tang Xian, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, they found it hard to believe. However, even if they found it hard to believe, there was nothing they could do. The truth was the truth. There was nothing they could do about it. Perhaps Duan Ling Tian has been concealing his cultivation base since the beginning. As the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, it's normal for him to conceal his cultivation base in order to join Zoroastrianism. That's the only explanation. It's impossible for someone at the eighth form of the Saint Celestial stage to become an eminent celestial in just a few years. I can't believe the 3 sect leaders of the 3 great sects have died in the hands of the Seven Absolute sect in just a few years. The Seven Absolute sect is really heaven-defying this time. At this moment, the people in the western region could not help but recall the deaths of the sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism and the sect leader of Heaven Divination sect. The sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism was killed by the current successor of the Red Dust progeny, the 7th absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. The sect leader of Heaven Divination sect was killed by the current successor of the Prophet progeny, the 2nd absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. Now, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism was killed by the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the 1st absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. The sky of the Dao Martial Saint land is going to change. Apart from the people in the western region, the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint land had similar thoughts when they heard the news. As time passed by, almost all the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint land who were well informed had received shocking news from the lower province. Duan Ling Tian, the former guardian of Zoroastrianism, is the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. After a few years, when Duan Lingtian revealed his identity and revealed his cultivation base as an eminent celestial, he killed the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. After sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism and the sect leader of Heaven Divination sect were killed by the Seven Absolute sect, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism was also killed by the Seven Absolute sect. Tang Xian, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, was killed by Duan Lingtian. At the critical moment, the four great guardians of Zoroastrianism appointed the sister of Duan Lingtian's wife, Gan Ru Yen, the direct disciple of guardian Qinghua, as the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism. That's how Zoroastrianism survived. The sect of Zoroastrianism announced that they will no longer be enemies with the Seven Absolute sect. When the news spread in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land, it shocked everyone. Damn it! Zoroastrianism is so cowardly. In the Zhuangzi Buddhism's estate, Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of Zhuangzi Buddhism, had a grave expression on his face when he heard the news. Zoroastrianism. Very good. Very good. In the Heaven Divination sect's estate, Mo Xian, the great oracle of Heaven Divination sect, had a grave expression on his face. His voice was so cold that it sent chills down the spines of those who heard it. Duan Lingtian? He's the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. Somewhere in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land, a pair of identical twin brothers could not help but look at each other in shock when they heard the news that spread like wildfire outside. These two were none other than the successors of the Didymus progeny, the sixth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, Nangong Chen and Nangong Yi. I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. Nangong Yi was the first to regain his senses after a long while. He could not help but sigh. Although Nangong Chen did not say anything, the shock on his face was no less than Nangong Yi's. Junior brother Lingtian? He's the successor of the Fog Rain progeny? The current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect? Gu Li, the current successor of the third absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, the Kratos progeny, was dumbfounded when he heard the news. He only regained his senses after a long while. When he regained his senses, he could not help but sigh. The world was too small. He finally found out about his identity. Yu Wu Ying, the successor of the Dark Shadow progeny, the fourth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, muttered to himself when he learned about Duan Lingtian's identity as the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. The successor of the Fog Rain progeny is Brother Lingtian. When Han Xuanai received the news, she was stunned for a long time. She did not expect the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, would be her brother Lingtian. To think I compared brother Lingtian to the mysterious successor of the Fog Rain progeny. I didn't expect brother Lingtian to be the same person. Han Xuanai could not help but smile wryly when she thought of this. After recovering from her shock, Han Xuanai could not help but feel excited. Since the successor of the Fog Rain progeny is brother Lingtian, doesn't this mean I'll be able to fight alongside brother Lingtian in the future? However, I have to cultivate seriously. Brother Lingtian is already an eminent celestial, but my cultivation base is still at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Han Xuanai felt a sense of loss when she thought of this. However, at the same time, she was extremely enthusiastic about her future cultivation. Elder brother Duan, a fiery red figure stood on the peak of a steep mountain. It was a woman dressed in a fiery red robe. From afar she looked like a fire elf dancing in the wind. This woman was none other than Feng Tianwu. She was also the successor of the Blazing Phoenix progeny, the fifth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. Unlike the other members of the Seven Absolute sect, Feng Tianwu had long known that her elder brother Duan was the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. Since the Oracle Man had forbidden her from telling the other members of the Seven Absolute sect, she had not told them about it. In recent years she had gone to the western region many times and even disguised herself as a disciple of Zoroastrianism to enter the Zoroastrianism sect. However, she did not manage to meet her elder brother Duan at all. Moreover, she did not hear anything about her elder brother Duan at all. Her elder brother Duan seemed to have vanished without a trace. Chapter 2367. Now, elder brother Duan should still be practicing Zoroastrianism, right? Thinking of this, Feng Tianwu could no longer hold back the longing in her heart. Her body moved, and as if she had turned into a ball of flames, she flew towards the Zoroastrianism camp at an extremely fast speed. She was already in the western region, so it wouldn't take long for her to get there. I can't believe elder brother Duan is already an eminent celestial. Thinking of the news she had just received, Feng Qianwu couldn't help but feel shocked. One should know that, her elder brother Duan, on the other hand, did not have the 6 absolutes heaven-defying fate-changing grand formation to help him change his fate. He had completely relied on his own efforts to achieve what he had today. Initially, she thought it was good enough that she had broken through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, she did not expect that he was still far inferior to her elder brother Duan. At the same time that she was shocked in her heart, a wisp of a smile appeared on Feng Tianwu's face, and she was sincerely happy for the accomplishments that her big brother Duan had obtained, Zoroastrianism. Not long after, Feng Qianwu arrived at the Zoroastrianism encampment. Looking at the Zoroastrianism encampment in front of her, her eyes filled with infatuation. All these years, the man who had haunted her dreams so many times in the middle of the night was most likely still inside. Whoosh. When Feng Qianwu first came to the Zoroastrianism, her cultivation base was only at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. She was wary of Tang Xian, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, who was at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Now that her cultivation base had broken through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage and the death of Tang Xian, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, there was nothing for her to worry about. In the current Zoroastrianism, there was no one stronger than her. If there was, it would have to be her elder brother Duan. Feng Qianwu entered the Zoroastrianism encampment in the air above the 4 symbol sanctums of Zoroastrianism. Duan Ling Tian, who was in the fire worship sect's Saint Land, instantly discovered Feng Tianwu, the uninvited guest, with his divine consciousness enveloping the entire fire worship sect's estate. Naturally, he did not know it was Feng Qianwu. 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage? It's not Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of Black Kshetra sect. Could it be Mo Xian, the great priest of heaven divination sect? Currently, Duan Lingtian's divine consciousness could only detect that the intruder was at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. He was certain the intruder was not the supreme elder of the Zhuangzi Buddhism whom he had met before. However, he had no idea who the intruder was. I don't think it's Mo Xian, the grand priest of the heaven divination sect. No matter how displeased he is with Gan Ru Yan's order to befriend the 7 absolute sect, he wouldn't dare to trespass in the Zoroastrianism encampment. After all, he must have guessed I'm still a Zoroastrianism cultivator. Unless he has a death wish, it's impossible for him to come to Zoroastrianism alone. Duan Lingtian shook his head. He did not think the intruder was the grand priest of the heaven divination sect. If it's not Lang Qianjin and Mo Xian, who could it be? Duan Lingtian raised his eyebrows slightly with a puzzled expression on his face. His body that was sitting in front of the stone table transformed into an afterimage before it gradually disappeared. It was as though he had never appeared before. Meanwhile, Feng Qianwu was about to leave the 4 symbol sanctums of Zoroastrianism and enter the saint land of Zoroastrianism when a voice suddenly rang in her ears. Who are you? This voice appeared extremely suddenly. However, as soon as it entered Feng Tianwu's ears, it immediately caused her delicate figure to tremble slightly. After that, she paused in midair and looked towards the source of the voice. She was very familiar with the voice. Under Feng Tianwu's gaze, an illusory figure seemed to have appeared out of thin air in the distant void. Then it quickly solidified and appeared clearly before her eyes. He hasn't changed. At the instant she saw the purple-clothed young man that appeared out of thin air before her, Feng Tianwu's heart couldn't help but tremble, and her gaze became blurred along with it. Waves of excitement even appeared on her peerless and alluring face. She had completely lost her composure. Feng Qianwu's heart trembled. She was stunned. The person standing in the distance was none other than Duan Lingtian, who had just arrived. He could not help but tremble slightly as well. The woman standing in front of him had a beautiful face and a graceful figure. She was dressed in a fiery red robe. Her skin was as fair as the snow of early winter. Her hair was as black as ink from Jiangnan. She looked like a fire spirit as she stood there. It was as though her appearance made everything around her pale in comparison. She hasn't changed. At this moment, Duan Lingtian had the same thought as Feng Tianwu. A man and a woman who were not far from each other stood in the air and looked at each other without saying a word. Their eyes met, but neither of them made a sound. It was as though they were afraid the dreamlike scene before them would disappear completely if they made a sound. At this moment, silence spoke louder than words. Tianwu. In the end, it was Duan Lingtian who spoke first and broke the silence. At the same time, he stepped into the air and ran toward Feng Qianwu. Elder brother Duan. As Duan Lingtian spoke, Feng Qianwu seemed to have realized everything before her eyes was not a dream. She called out to Duan Lingtian with a trembling voice before she moved in the direction where Duan Lingtian came from. After a short moment, both of them were already hugging each other. Feng Qianwu hugged Duan Lingtian tightly and leaned her head on Duan Lingtian's chest. She listened to Duan Lingtian's rapid heartbeat as though she was afraid the man in her arms would leave her again. At this moment, only Feng Qianwu remained in Duan Lingtian's eyes as he hugged her tightly in his arms. This woman had even sacrificed her life for him all those years ago. At that time she had almost died. At that time he had told himself that he absolutely could not let her down. The two of them who were hugging each other seemed to only have each other in their eyes. It was to the extent that they did not notice when someone appeared nearby. Of course, it was also because the person had no hostility. Otherwise they would have sensed it. Oh, who's she? Duan Lingtian's earlier question had attracted the attention of the four guardians of Zoroastrianism. Even the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Ganru Yen, had rushed over. When she saw Duan Lingtian hugging an unfamiliar woman, a hint of disbelief could be seen in her eyes. She was not angry that Duan Lingtian was hugging another woman. She did not even feel indignant for his sister. At this moment, all that was left in her heart was shock. Although she did not dare to say she knew Duan Lingtian very well after spending a few years together, she knew Duan Lingtian was not a casual person. At this moment, this was her first time seeing Duan Lingtian being so gentle to another woman other than his sister. Could it be that she is Li Fei? Ganru Yen could not help but wonder. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A moment later, the two vice-sect leaders of Zoroastrianism and some of the patrolling elders approached. However, as soon as they got close, they were ordered to retreat by the four guardians of Zoroastrianism. They were afraid that their arrival would disturb Duan Lingtian and interrupt the intimacy between Duan Lingtian and the woman. This would infuriate Duan Lingtian. At this moment, they were afraid of Duan Lingtian from the bottom of their hearts. Whoosh. After the higher-ups of Zoroastrianism left, a graceful figure appeared next to Ganru Yen. It was a beautiful woman who looked exactly like Ganru Yen. However, her temperament was different. This was Ganru Yan's twin sister Ker. Ker. Is she Li Fei? After Ker appeared, Ganru Yen could not help but ask softly. Even she herself did not realize that when she asked this question, there was a hint of bitterness in her tone. No. Ker shook her head lightly. Since Ker's attention was also on the woman who was hugging Duan Lingtian in the distance, she did not notice the bitterness in Ganru Yan's voice. However, there was one person who noticed the bitterness in Ganru Yan's voice when she asked Ker. Ill-fated relationship. Ill-fated relationship. This person was none other than Ganru Yan's master, Guardian Qinghua, one of the four guardians of Zoroastrianism. As Ganru Yan's master, he knew Ganru Yen very well. Therefore, based on Ganru Yan's tone earlier, he could tell that Ganru Yen had feelings for Duan Lingtian. She's not Li Fei? Then who is she? Ganru Yen asked again. She should be little sister Tianwu. Ker said with a smile. Little sister Tianwu? Feng Tianwu? The woman who sacrificed her life for him and almost died? Ganru Yen narrowed her eyes when she heard Ker's words. As Ker's twin sister, she had heard Ker mention Feng Tianwu more than once when she was with Ker. She knew the name represented a woman. A woman who did not hesitate to sacrifice her life for Duan Lingtian. In the beginning, when she heard about Feng Tianwu's past deeds, she only felt that Feng Tianwu was too foolish. How foolish of her to sacrifice her life for an unfaithful man. However, she was very envious of Feng Tianwu now. At the very least, just like her sister, she had obtained this man's heart. This was something she yearned for day and night, but it was difficult for her to obtain. If it was possible, she would rather give up her position as the sect leader of Zoroastrianism and stay by this man's side and quietly be his little woman. However, she knew it was destined to be an extravagant hope. Tianwu, how have you been all these years? Duan Lingtian asked gently as he loosened his grip on Feng Tianwu. I'm fine. How about you, elder brother Duan? You must have suffered a lot along the way, right? Chapter 2368. Ker. Aren't you angry at all when you see them like this? When Ganru Yen saw Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu flirting with each other as though no one was around, she could not help but ask her sister who was standing next to her. This was because she realized that from the beginning to the end, her younger sister had been smiling as she looked at the two people who had reunited after a long time. Although the two of them were very intimate, she did not seem displeased at all. Why would I be angry? Ker shook her head. The smile on her face did not diminish as she said, Elder sister, to me, to be able to be with Brother Tian in this lifetime, and to be by his side, is the greatest blessing that the heavens have given me. As for how many women he has around him, I don't care. As long as I have a place in his heart, I'm content even if it's insignificant. Ker's gaze when she looked at Duan Tian became even gentler when she spoke. It was as though she could melt anything. Gan Ruyen was stunned when she heard Ker's words. Ker's love for him has reached such a level? Gan Ruyen was also shocked by Ker's love for Duan Tian. Although she admitted she had feelings for Duan Tian, her love for Duan Tian paled in comparison to Ker's love for Duan Tian. While Duan Tian and Feng Tianwu were celebrating their reunion after so many years, the central province of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land was in turmoil. Initially, the central province was filled with news about Duan Tian, the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. However, in just a blink of an eye, the situation had changed. The strongest person in the Dao Martial Saint Land isn't an eminent celestial? There's a bodiless celestial who's stronger than an eminent celestial? If a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage fails the Celestial Ascension Tribulation, it's possible that he'll be able to escape with his life. Those who survive the Celestial Ascension Tribulation are bodiless celestials? Bodiless celestials are divided into 9 stages. A 2 tribulation bodiless celestial is comparable to an eminent celestial. After that, there are 3 tribulation bodiless celestials, 4 tribulation bodiless celestials, 5 tribulation bodiless celestials, and even 9 tribulation bodiless celestials. A frog at the bottom of a well. The past me was simply a frog at the bottom of a well. The Supreme Saint ranking is a joke when it comes to bodiless celestials. This shocking news spread from the central province of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. It swept across the entire upper province like a hurricane, causing the people in the upper province to be shocked. And they were all bodiless Celestial Ascension sect. This news re the 4 bodiless celestial, the bodiless Celestial Ascension, Duan. Naturally, Qin Yiru did not reveal his identity when he spread the news. Otherwise, it would not take long for the powerhouses from the dragons and phoenixes to come and kill him. No matter what, Duan Lingtian's order to Qin Yiru had caused a huge commotion in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. It also caused bodiless celestials to be completely exposed before the eyes of the world. A new era was about to arrive. The dragons were one of the 2 strongest clans in the Dao Martial Saint Land since ancient times. They were equally famous as the Phoenix clan. The 2 races were located in opposite directions, one in the east and one in the west. The Phoenix clan was located in the western region of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, while the dragons were located in the eastern region of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. There was a vast barren mountain in the eastern region that was shrouded in clouds all year round. This place was regarded as a forbidden area by the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. This was because many people had tried to enter the barren mountain to explore it. However, none of them had ever come out. As time passed, this place became a place that people feared. Naturally, almost all the powerhouses in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land knew where this place was. This place was where the dragons resided. The 100,000 Mountains. The 100,000 Mountains referred to the barren mountain in the eastern region that was shrouded in clouds all year round. Because this barren mountain covered a vast area, and there were countless mountains of various sizes within it, over time, this place was also known as the 100,000 Mountains. The dragon's residence was divided into 3 main areas. One of the areas was where ordinary members of the dragon tribe lived. The dragon tribe's clan leader, dragon tribe's elders, and ordinary members of the dragon tribe lived in this area. The other area was where the dragons and bodiless celestials lived. The last area was also where the bodiless celestials lived. However, the bodiless celestials here were not members of the dragons. They were either humans or saint beasts. Naturally, they had one thing in common. All of them were from the 3 strongest sects in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Any one of them would be considered an ancestor in one of the 3 great sections. Li Bing, didn't you make fun of my Zhuangzi Buddhism? Didn't you say my sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism was killed by a little girl from the 7 Absolute sect? Didn't your sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Tang Xian, was killed by a kid from the 7 Absolute sect? An old man said mockingly as he looked at a middle-aged man in the air above a valley in the dragon's residence. When the old man saw the middle-aged man's expression changing, he continued to say, the current sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism was only at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, so it's not surprising that he was killed. However, the current sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Tang Xian, was at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Moreover, it's said that Tang Xian has mastered a movement divine ability that's widely acknowledged as the #1 movement divine ability in the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, he still died in the hands of the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 Absolute sect. The old man seemed to be proud of himself as he spoke. This old man used to be the Karmapa of Zhuangzi Buddhism. After he failed the celestial tribulation and became a bodiless celestial, he was brought to the dragons by a bodiless celestial powerhouse from the dragons. He was imprisoned here and had his freedom restricted. Usually, he would only be allowed to leave if the bodiless celestial powerhouse from the dragons ordered him to do something. Otherwise, a bodiless celestial from one of the 3 great sects like him would not be able to leave this place. Naturally, there were also people who tried to escape. However, all of them were killed by the bodiless celestials from the dragons. Humph! When the middle-aged man who was called Li Bing heard this, he snorted coldly with a gloomy expression. A cold gleam flashed in the depths of his eyes, but he did not seem to know how to respond to the old man's words. Li Bing was a bodiless celestial from Zoroastrianism. A few years ago, news had spread that the sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism had been killed. Therefore he had mocked the old man before him. He did not expect his karma would come so quickly. In just a few years, the current sect leader of Zoroastrianism had been killed by someone from the 7 Absolute sect. Haha! Suddenly, a burst of laughter rang in the air as a burly old man who looked like an iron tower appeared. After he came to a halt, he looked at Li Bing mockingly. Li Bing, I heard that after the current sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Tang Xian, was killed by someone from the 7 Absolute sect, the new sect leader, a little girl named Gan Ru Yen, has issued a new rule. No one is allowed to go against the 7 Absolute sect. It seems like the people from Zoroastrianism are the most useless among the 3 great sects. After all, the 3 great sects had come to an agreement to deal with the 7 Absolute sect together. However, the people from Zoroastrianism are now deserters. A mocking expression could be seen on the burly old man's face when he reached the end of his sentence. The burly old man was none other than a bodiless celestial from the Heaven Divination sect. A few years ago, when the current sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism had been killed, the current sect leader of Heaven Divination sect had been killed as well. When the burly old man learned about this, he was naturally furious. However, there was nothing he could do. This was because he could not leave the dragon's side. Li Bing. In the end, Zoroastrianism is the most cowardly among the 3 great sections. When faced with the sect leader of 7 Absolute sect, they immediately admitted defeat. It's said that the reason the sect leader of 7 Absolute sect didn't eliminate Zoroastrianism is because of his wife. After all, the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism is his wife's sister. His wife seems to be the Saint Girl of Zoroastrianism. The Saint Girl of Zoroastrianism is the wife of the sect leader of 7 Absolute sect. How ironic. It seems like Zoroastrianism has been trying to curry favor with the 7 Absolute sect since a long time ago. After a while, many bodiless celestials from Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect gathered around Li Bing and mocked him. All of you are really looking for an opportunity to kick him when he's down. A furious voice rang in the air before a figure appeared next to Li Bing. He looked at the people around him with a dark expression on his face. What do you mean by the sect leader of 7 Absolute sect didn't eliminate Zoroastrianism because of a woman? All of you are from Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect. Don't you know that if the 7 Absolute sect dares to eliminate our 3 great sects, the dragons and the phoenixes won't sit back and do nothing? Based on your logic, if the Duan Ling Tian didn't eliminate Zoroastrianism because of a woman, does that mean he can eliminate Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect? The person who appeared next to Li Bing was also a bodiless celestial from Zoroastrianism. Compared to Li Bing, he was much more eloquent. With just a few words, the bodiless celestials from Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect were rendered speechless. Li Bing, Lord Dichen asked us to go over. It seems like he has something he wants us to do after we leave the dragons. The bodiless celestial from Zoroastrianism who appeared next to Li Bing said loudly as he looked at Li Bing. Leave the dragons? Chapter 2369. The group of bodiless celestials from the 3 great sects had been imprisoned here ever since they were brought here by the dragons. They were not allowed to leave the dragons. If there was anyone who disobeyed, they would only end up dead. Naturally, it was not impossible for them to leave the dragons temporarily. However, the chances were slim. If they wanted to leave the dragons temporarily, they had to fulfill two conditions. First of all, they had to find a powerful dragon or someone with a strong background to be their backer. Second, they had to find a backer who would allow them to go out and do something. Neither of these two conditions could be omitted. Currently, the bodiless celestial standing next to Li Bing, who was also a Zoroastrianism powerhouse like Li Bing, had said that he and Li Bing would soon have a chance to leave the dragons. This naturally caused the surrounding group of people to be filled with envy and jealousy. Damn it! Li Bing's luck is really good. The bodiless celestial from the Zhuangzi Buddhism who had mocked Li Bing in the beginning suddenly had a gloomy expression on his face. After all, these bodiless celestials from the three great sects might not necessarily have a chance to leave the dragons even if they found a backer. This was because they would only have a chance to leave the dragons if their backer asked them to go out and do something. Even if they left the dragons, they would still have to return once they were done. Otherwise, they would not be able to escape the dragons' pursuit. However, at the very least, they would not have to stay in this place forever. After staying in the same place for a long time without freedom, no one would not feel annoyed. Lord Emperor Qin wants us to go there. Is there something he wants us to do outside of the dragon race? Upon hearing the words of the person next to him, Li Bing's eyes lit up immediately. The gloominess from before was swept away, and his eyes shone brightly. Humph! The itinerant immortal expert from Zhuangzi Buddhism, who had mocked Li Bing at the beginning, looked at Li Bing and snorted. I hope that when you leave the dragons this time, you'll be able to get the current leader of Zoroastrianism to remove the rule she set that forbids anyone from becoming enemies with the Seven Absolutes sect. The three great sects joining hands to deal with the Seven Absolutes sect is a tradition that has been passed down since ancient times. Zoroastrianism, don't forget your roots. As he spoke, the bodiless celestial from Zhuangzi Buddhism began to sound hostile. Exactly. As it should be. The other bodiless celestials from the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect chimed in as well. When I, Li Bing, do things, it's not up to you to tell me what to do. Li Bing's expression darkened as he scoffed. Then he left with another bodiless celestial from Zoroastrianism. After Li Bing and the other bodiless celestial from Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect left, the group of bodiless celestials from the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect could not help but discuss among themselves. I hope Li Bing won't have the chance to meet the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny after he leaves. Otherwise, he'll definitely kill that person and come back to show off to us. Although the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land isn't big, it's not small either. His time is limited when he goes out to deal with some matters. Even if he wants to look for the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, he might not be able to find him. Unless the successor of the Seven Absolute sect's first absolute, the Fog Rain progeny, is stupid enough to expose his whereabouts or stay in the Fire Worship sect's estate, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack for Li Bing to find him. While they were jealous of Li Bing for being able to leave the dragons, they also mentioned the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, Duan Tian, the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect. Although these bodiless celestials from the three great sects were not allowed to go out to deal with private matters, since they were sent out to deal with some matters, however, once they left the dragons they would be far away from the dragons. As long as they returned within a certain time limit and did not get into any big trouble, the dragons would not pursue the matter. For this reason they had mentioned Duan Tian and hoped that Duan Tian would not encounter Li Bing. In their eyes, Duan Tian was not an ordinary person. Although Duan Tian was an eminent celestial, he was not a big deal at all. Any one of them was a three-tribulation bodiless celestial. It would only take a blink of an eye for them to kill an eminent celestial. Moreover, with the dragons and phoenixes protecting the three great sects, they were not worried that Duan Tian would annihilate the Zhuangzi Buddhism and Heaven Divination sect. For this reason, they did not want Li Bing to encounter Duan Tian and kill Duan Tian. It did not matter to them whether Duan Tian died or not. However, if Duan Tian was killed by Li Bing would brag about how he had avenged Tang Xin, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, while they were unable to do so. Buddhas fought for an incense stick's worth of time. In this godforsaken place they were bored and had nothing to live for. But at the same time, they also regarded their face as extremely important. For this reason, the bodiless celestial from the Zhuangzi Buddhism had mocked Li Bing when he found out Duan Tian had killed the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism. He wanted to regain the reputation he had lost a few years ago. A few years ago, Li Bing had mocked him and humiliated him when he learned that the sect leader of the Zhuangzi Buddhism had been killed by a female disciple from the Seven Absolute sect. I wonder when the Lord behind me will ask me to leave the dragons to do something. Many bodiless celestials from the Zhuangzi Buddhism and Heaven Divination sect could not help but mutter to themselves after Li Bing and Duan Lingtian had left. Meanwhile, Wang Chong, do you know what Lord Dichen wants us to do after we leave the dragons? Li Bing could not help but ask the bodiless celestial who was also from the Zoroastrianism. I'm not too sure about the details. However, based on Lord Dichen's tone in the voice transmission jade token, it seems to be urgent, Wang Chong said solemnly. Wang Chong gravely said. Li Bing nodded. Li Bing. At this moment, Wang Chong seemed to think of something and gravely said, that's right. He said solemnly, I know you're very happy to be able to leave the dragons this time. You want to find the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny of the Seven Absolute sect and kill him to avenge Tang Xian and humiliate those fellows? However, I still hope that you'll prioritize the matter Lord Dichen has asked you to do. If we fail to complete the task within the time limit, Lord Dichen will lose his trust in us, and we might never get the chance to leave the dragons again. Wang Chong's tone was solemn when he spoke. It was rare for them to be able to leave the dragons temporarily to do something. However, if he messed up, he might not have the opportunity to leave the Dragon Clan to do things in the future. In the history of the Dragon Clan, there were many itinerant celestials who came from the three great sections. They had once left the Dragon Clan to do something and failed, so they never got a second chance to leave the Dragon Clan. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Li Bing nodded solemnly. He understood Wang Chong's words. Stop right there. Just as Li Bing and Wang Chong were about to leave the area where the bodiless celestials from the three great sects were, a thunderous voice rang in the air, causing Li Bing and Duan Lingtian's hearts to tremble. Whoosh! Almost at the same time as the voice sounded out, an elderly figure also descended from the sky. It was as if he was stepping on a piece of land and he arrived in front of the Li Bing duo in just a few steps. It was a tall and sturdy old man dressed in green. He exuded a domineering aura as he stood there. A majestic and boundless aura was faintly emitted from his body. This was an innate aura. Li Bing and Duan Lingtian were no strangers to this aura. This was the dragon's might that was unique to divine dragons who had reached a certain level of cultivation. Lord Qingyu. After the green-robed old man appeared, Li Bing and the other two bowed to him in unison. Their tone was respectful and their attitude was humble. This was because the green-clad old man was one of the bodiless celestials from the dragons who were tasked with monitoring the bodiless celestials from the three great sections. He was a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial. Where are the two of you going? The green-clad old man, Qingyu, asked indifferently. Lord Qingyu, Lord Dichen asked us to go over. He said he has something to tell us. Wang Chong, who was standing next to Li Bing, stepped forward and said respectfully, Young Master Dichen? A hint of respect could be seen in Qingyu's eyes when he heard Wang Chong's words. Then his expression softened. Since young Master Dichen asked you to go over, you may go over now. As soon as Qingyu finished speaking, he left. Although Dichen was not as strong as Qingyu, Dichen's father was one of the strongest powerhouses in the dragons. For this reason, Qingyu had to address Dichen respectfully as young Master Dichen. After Qingyu left, Li Bing and Wang Chong went to the area where the Dragon Clan's itinerant celestial realm experts were. They met Emperor Qin, the person they had found after coming to the Dragon Clan. In fact, rather than calling him their backer, it would be more accurate to call him their master. To a certain extent, they had a master-servant relationship with Dichen. Dichen was their master and they were his servants. Li Bing and Wang Chong saw Emperor Qin in a pavilion in a picturesque valley. However, they only looked at him with respect in their eyes. They had a tacit understanding and didn't say anything. Emperor Qin was a handsome young man. He was sitting in a pavilion. A guzheng was suspended in the void in front of him. His hands were constantly fiddling with the strings of the guzheng. The crisp sound of music reverberated in the air, lingering in the air. After about 15 minutes, the music stopped abruptly. You're here. Dichen raised his head and looked at Li Bing and Wang Chong indifferently. Lord Dichen. Li Bing and Wang Chong hurriedly bowed respectfully to Dichen. I've called you here because I have something I need you to do. This is something my father instructed me to do. Emperor Qin got straight to the point as soon as he opened his mouth. His tone changed as he spoke. It became extremely serious. Supreme Elder? Chapter 2370. As Dichen's subordinates, Li Bing and Wang Chong were naturally aware of this. Dichen's father was the Supreme Elder of the Dragons. He was a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial, one of the strongest dragons. However, they were not sure if he was a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial or an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. This was because there were two versions of this powerhouse among the dragons. One version said he was a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial while the other version said he was an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. Naturally, no matter if he was an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial or a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, he was invincible to them. Now, Emperor Qin had said that the matter he had asked them to do was something his father had instructed him to do. While Li Bing and Wang Chong were shocked, they also felt an immense pressure. Their hearts were in their mouths as they were filled with apprehension. If it was Di Qin who had instructed them to do this, even if they failed, Di Qin would not allow them to do this again. However, Emperor Qin's father had instructed them to do this. So, Emperor Qin wouldn't leave the matter at that if they failed. And they wouldn't have a good ending even if they weren't executed in the end. My father said that recently, someone in the central region revealed the existence of bodiless celestials. Di Qin said indifferently. What? Li Bing and Wang Chong were shocked when they heard Di Qin's words. Who's so bold? Is he seeking death? Doesn't he know that the dragons and phoenixes have forbidden anyone from revealing the existence of bodiless celestials? Li Bing and Wang Chong cried out in shock when they regained their senses. This is the reason I've asked both of you to come here. Both of you, leave the dragons and investigate who exposed the existence of bodiless celestials. Emperor Qin continued to speak. His eyes became cold and sharp. You can imprison him and bring him back if he's weaker than you. You can come back and inform me if he's stronger than you. I'll kill him myself at that time. Emperor Qin continued to speak. Emperor Qin's body exuded waves of ice-cold aura as soon as he finished speaking. Li Bing and the other man felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave, as if winter had arrived. Yes. Li Bing and Wang Chong hurriedly acknowledged Di Qin's order. Keep these two minor and major mirror image talismans. Even if you're not a match for that person and are killed by him, I'll be able to find out who exposed the existence of bodiless celestials to the public. Di Qin raised his hand and tossed 2 Dao talismans to Li Bing and Wang Chong. Li Bing and Wang Chong hurriedly caught the talismans and kept them close to their bodies. I'll give both of you a year. I don't think I need to remind both of you of the rules, right? Di Qin asked indifferently. He raised an eyebrow when he saw Li Bing and Wang Chong had kept the minor and major mirror image talismans. Li Bing and Wang Chong were shocked when they heard Di Qin's words. Then they swore on the lightning penalty oath as well. They swore on the lightning penalty oath that they had to return to the dragons within a year. Otherwise they would be killed by the lightning penalty. This was the best way to restrain them. Go. Di Qin said indifferently after he saw Li Bing and Wang Chong swearing on the lightning penalty oath. He raised his hand and gave them a token that allowed them to enter the dragons. After receiving the token, Li Bing and Wang Chong left Di Qin's place of cultivation. Then they left the area where the bodiless celestial dragons were. They planned to leave the 100,000 mountains as soon as they left the dragon's territory. Just as they were about to leave the dragon's territory, they were stopped by the dragons. However, after Li Bing showed the token that Di Qin had given him, he and Wang Chong successfully left the dragons and the 100,000 mountains. With the token that Di Qin had given them, they could use it to enter the dragon's territory. However, they would have to return the token to Di Qin when they returned. We're out. Ah. I Wang Chong am out. After leaving the 100,000 mountains, Li Bing and Wang Chong could not help but shout loudly, venting the emotions that had been bottled up in the dragon's territory for many years. After all, ever since they had failed the heavenly tribulation and became bodiless celestials, they had not left the Dragon Clan's estate since they were brought to the Dragon Clan's estate. This was their first time leaving the dragon's territory. After venting their emotions for a while, Li Bing and Wang Chong made their way to the central region. The news came from the central region. Let's start our investigation there. Wang Chong said. All right. Li Bing nodded. He had the same thought as well. With their speed, it did not take long for them to arrive at the central region. They went to Sin City, the busiest place for bodiless celestials in the central region. However, after a few days they still did not find anything. We're certain that the person who spread the news about bodiless celestials is extremely cautious. Li Bing and Wang Chong were in a room in an inn. Wang Chong had a grave expression on his face as he spoke. Indeed. Li Bing's expression was grave as well. Based on what we found so far, that person didn't leave any traces behind. It's obvious that he intentionally spread the news about bodiless celestials to provoke the dragons and the phoenixes. That person is most likely a bodiless celestial. Wang Chong said confidently, if he's not a bodiless celestial, it's impossible for him to spread the news without leaving any traces behind. Those who aren't bodiless celestials and know about bodiless celestials are the high-ranking officials of the three great sects, including the Zoroastrianism. However, although they don't know about the rules of the dragons and the phoenixes, they know that there are no bodiless celestials in the three great sections. It's impossible for them to spread the news about bodiless celestials. After all, if they spread the news about bodiless celestials, the three great sects would lose their standing in the eyes of the world. This is something that the high-ranking officials of the three great sects don't want to see. Therefore, there's no reason for them to spread the news about bodiless celestials. Wang Chong voiced his opinion in one breath. If the high-ranking officials of the three great sects leak the news, it's impossible for them to not leave any traces behind. That person can only be a bodiless celestial like us. Li Bing agreed with Wang Chang's words. We can only continue to investigate. Even if that person is a bodiless celestial, he must have left some traces behind. What we need to do now is find a breakthrough and follow the clues to find the bodiless celestial who spread the news. Wang Chong said. Let's continue to investigate. Li Bing nodded in agreement. Soon after, Li Bing and Wang Chong began to search in all directions with Sin City as the center. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, it had been a month since Li Bing and Wang Chong left the Dragons of Dragons. A month has passed, but we still haven't found a breakthrough. Li Bing said in frustration at a certain place in the west of Sin City. Let's continue to investigate. I'm sure we'll find something eventually. I still have a few clues. Who knows, one of them might be able to help me find a breakthrough. Wang Chong said patiently. Wang Chong. Li Bing suddenly looked at Wang Chong and said, I've finished investigating all the clues in my hands. In the next few days I'm planning to return to the Zoroastrianism. You're planning to order that last to remove the new rule she set that forbids anyone from going against the Seven Absolute Sect? Wang Chong was also a member of the Zoroastrianism, so it was not difficult for him to guess Li Bing's thoughts. The last Wang Chong was referring to was none other than the current sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, Ganru Yen. Li Bing nodded. Since ancient times, the Zoroastrianism has worked together with the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect to deal with the Seven Absolute sect. This time that lass has gone overboard. Even if the successor of the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, the Fog Rain lineage, is her brother-in-law, she shouldn't have set such a ridiculous rule. When I return, not only will I have her remove that rule, but I'll also remove her from the position of sect leader. Judging from Li Bing's tone, it seemed like he was extremely displeased with the current sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, Ganru Yen. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said that he was going to remove Ganru Yen from the position of sect leader after returning to the Zoroastrianism. Alright, you should go then, Wang Chong nodded. However, once you're done with the matters in the sect, you should return as soon as possible. Don't forget that the task we're carrying out this time was given to us by Lord Di Chen's father, the Supreme Elder of the Dragons. If we fail, not only will it be difficult for us to leave the dragons in the future, we might even be severely punished by Lord Di Chen. In front of the dragons and Lord Di Chen, we're no different from ants. If he wants to kill us, he can do so at any time. As he spoke, his expression grew graver and graver. Don't worry. Li Bing nodded solemnly. It'll take me at most 7 to 8 days to return to the Zoroastrianism. 7 to 8 days? I'll give you 2 days' time. You must return in 2 days' time. Wang Chong replied grimly, 2 days is more than enough for you to settle the matters in the sect. Unless, of course, you want to find the successor of the Fog Rain lineage of the Seven Absolute sect and kill him to avenge Tang Xian and show off in front of those fellows. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Unless it doesn't take much time to find that lad, I won't waste my time looking for him, Li Bing said. Naturally, he hoped that he could find the successor of the Fog Rain lineage, the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, and kill him to avenge Tang Xian. This way he could show off in front of those from the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect in the Dragons. Chapter 2371. Zoroastrianism. The cultivation place of sect leader Ganru Yen. In a spacious courtyard on a huge floating island, 2 beautiful women sat in front of a stone table. They were chatting happily as though they were sisters. On the other side, a purple-clad young man was teaching a young girl how to use the sword. The purple-clad young man was none other than Duan Ling Tian. He was teaching his daughter, Duan Si Ling, how to use the sword. As for the 2 women who were chatting happily in front of the stone table, they were none other than Ke and Feng Tianwu, who had been cultivating Zoroastrianism for a month. Although Ke and Feng Tianwu had known about each other for a long time, this was the first time they had met. Since both of them had good personalities and were considerate of others, they got along very well. Those who did not know better might think they were sisters who had known each other for many years. Father, do you like Mother more, or do you like Auntie Tianwu more? Duan Si Ling asked Duan Ling Tian as she practiced her sword. Her big eyes were filled with slyness. It was obvious she had asked this question on purpose. Duan Ling Tian did not expect his daughter to suddenly ask such a question. He was stunned for a moment before he pretended to be angry when he regained his senses. You're so young yet you're not learning the right things. Why do you ask such questions? Practice your sword properly. Father, are you angry out of humiliation? Duan Si Ling giggled, completely ignoring Duan Ling Tian's unfriendly gaze. If you don't focus on practicing your sword, I won't teach you anymore. You can ask your mother to teach you later. Duan Ling Tian narrowed his eyes and said with a faint smile. This was his trump card to deal with his daughter. As expected, the moment he used his trump card, Duan Si Ling immediately shriveled up. Father, I was wrong. I won't do it again. Won't do what? Duan Ling Tian asked teasingly. I won't make fun of you anymore, father. Duan Si Ling said with a sullen expression. It was not that Duan Si Ling disliked her mother, Ke, but it was because of the powerful sword technique that her father, Duan Ling Tian, had demonstrated in front of her that she yearned for it. If she didn't learn the sword from her father, she would never be able to reach that level. Seeing his daughter give in, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but smile proudly. After Tianwu, Xuanai and the others didn't come to Zoroastrianism. It seems like they're not sure if I'm still in Zoroastrianism. As he continued to teach his daughter, Duan Ling Tian could not help but think about the other disciples of the Seven Absolute sect. Until now he had only met Tianwu, the current successor of the Blazing Phoenix progeny, one of the 5 absolutes of the 7 absolute sect. He had yet to meet the successors of the other 5 absolutes. Should I announce to the public that I'm in Zoroastrianism? However, that doesn't seem right. If I announce that I'm in Zoroastrianism, the dragons and phoenixes might think that I've killed the former sect leader of Zoroastrianism and turned Ganru Yen into my puppet. That's why I'm in control of Zoroastrianism. Although the dragons and phoenixes won't interfere as long as I don't annihilate the 3 great sects, if the dragons and phoenixes suspect that I'm in control of Zoroastrianism, they'll most likely intervene. The moment Duan Ling Tian thought about this, he thought to himself, there's no other choice. I can't announce to the public that I'm in Zoroastrianism. It seems like I'll have to look for another place. Previously, I heard from Tianwu that the 7 Absolute sect has a temporary estate in the northern region of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. As long as Tianwu and I go there and spread the news to summon the other successors of the 5 Absolutes, it'll only be a matter of time before the 7 Absolutes reunite. Duan Ling Tian quickly thought of a good idea to gather the 7 Absolutes of the 7 Absolute sect. Just as Duan Ling Tian was about to discuss this matter with Feng Tianwu, a voice suddenly rang in the air. Master, a bodiless celestial is here. A voice exploded by Duan Ling Tian's ears like a thunderclap, and it shocked him to the point his heart trembled. The voice belonged to Duan Ling Tian's servant, Qin Yi Ru, a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial. A bodiless celestial? Duan Ling Tian's eyes widened when he regained his senses. After a while, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A majestic aura swept out from the sky and shrouded the sky above the Zoroastrianism Saint Island, shocking everyone. What a powerful aura. Who's that? Who dares to cause trouble in the Zoroastrianism Saint Island? This aura. Even an eminent celestial's aura can't compare to this, right? A bodiless celestial? Could it be the person next to Guardian Ling Tian? When the aura swept out from the sky, the 4 guardians of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island were instantly alerted. At the same time, the vice-sect leader of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island and some elders of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island were also alerted as well. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Figures flew out from the islands at lightning speed. They were none other than the 4 guardians of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island. Who's that? At the same time, Ganru Yen, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island, who was in closed-door cultivation, was awakened from her cultivation. However, unlike the 4 guardians of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island, she did not fly toward the source of the majestic aura. Instead, she looked for Duan Ling Tian Saint Island. It's a bodiless celestial. Duan Ling Tian replied. A bodiless celestial? Ganru Yen was stunned when she heard this. Then her expression changed drastically. A bodiless celestial. Why is he here in the Zoroastrianism Saint Island? Master, I know this person. As soon as Gan Yen finished speaking, Chen Yiru appeared behind Duan Tian and spoke to Duan Tian. You know him? Duan Tian's eyes flashed. Yes. Chen Yiru nodded and continued to say, speaking of which, we're from the same era. At that time, I was ranked second on the Supreme Saint ranking and he was ranked third. He's one of the guardians of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island from 4,000 years ago, Li Bing. Chen Yiru revealed the person's identity with just a few words. Li Bing? Duan Tian did not react to Chen Yiru's words, but Gan Yen felt as though she had been struck by lightning. Li Bing? Isn't he the guardian of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island who failed his heavenly tribulation 4,000 years ago? He's still alive? With Chen Yiru as an example, when Gan Yen learned that Li Bing, the guardian of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island who failed his heavenly tribulation 4,000 years ago, was still alive, she immediately realized that Duan Tian was a guardian of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island. She was certain that Li Bing was a four-tribulation bodiless celestial like Chen Yiru. Shouldn't the bodiless celestials of the Zoroastrianism be imprisoned by the dragons? Gan Yen muttered to herself with an incredulous expression on her face. She had heard from Chen Yiru that there were no bodiless celestials in the Zoroastrianism Saint Island. For this reason, she was not surprised to learn that the guardian of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island who failed his heavenly tribulation 4,000 years ago was still alive. What surprised her the most was why the guardian of the Zoroastrianism Saint Island who was a four-tribulation bodiless celestial was here instead of in the dragons. The dragons must have sent him out to deal with some matters, and he must have come back to deal with the Zoroastrianism Saint Island. Chen Yiru was a bodiless celestial in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land after all. Naturally, he knew the reason Li Bing was here. He failed his heavenly tribulation 4,000 years ago? Duan Tian narrowed his eyes as he said indifferently, does this mean Li Bing is a four-tribulation bodiless celestial just like you? Yes. Although Duan Tian did not mention him, Chen Yiru knew Duan Tian was asking about him, so he quickly replied respectfully. Let's go. Let's go meet him. Duan Tian's eyes flashed as he soared into the sky. In just a blink of an eye, he was outside the floating island. Chen Yiru and Gan Yen followed him. At this moment, Ke Feng Tianwu and Duan Ling followed them out as well. Is Li Bing? Duan Tian asked in a low voice as he looked at the middle-aged man who was surrounded by Guardian Zifeng, Guardian Qinghua, and the others from the fire worship sect. It was as though he was asking a question to the air. It's him. Chen Yiru replied as soon as Duan Tian finished speaking. He did not dare to be negligent. Old ancestor. Old ancestor. At this moment, the four great guardians of Zoroastrianism, the vice-sect leaders of Zoroastrianism, and the remaining elders of Zoroastrianism bowed respectfully at Li Bing after they confirmed his identity. Li Bing was the guardian of Zoroastrianism 4,000 years ago. In terms of seniority, it was only right for them to address him as their old ancestor. Zoroastrianism has a bodiless celestial powerhouse? To think I thought Zoroastrianism doesn't have a bodiless celestial powerhouse. The people from the Zoroastrianism were pleasantly surprised. Who's Gan Yen? Li Bing asked in a deep voice as he looked at the people around him. As soon as Li Bing finished speaking, many of the people around him noticed Gan Yen who came out with Duan Tian. They instinctively turned to look at her. Soon after, more and more people followed suit. You're Gan Yen? When most of the people in the surroundings turned around to look at Gan Yen, Li Bing immediately confirmed Gan Yan's identity. His eyes narrowed as a cold glint flashed in them. Gan Yen, the current sect leader of Zoroastrianism, greets the old ancestor. Gan Yen bowed and greeted Li Bing as soon as she saw Li Bing. Current sect leader? Li Bing could not help but sneer when he saw Gan Yan's polite greeting. Then he looked at Gan Yen and said coldly, I hereby announce this. From today onward, you, Gan Yen, are no longer the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. Chapter 2372. I hereby announce that from today onward you, Gan Yen, are no longer the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. As soon as Li Bing opened his mouth, everyone was shocked again. Based on his words, it was obvious he wanted to eliminate Gan Yen, the new sect leader. Old ancestor. As Gan Yan's master, Qinghua's expression changed drastically. He was also the first to react. What did my disciple do? Old ancestor, you're going to strip her of her position as the sect leader. What did she do? Upon hearing Qinghua's words, Li Bing narrowed his eyes. A mocking smile appeared on his face. That's a good question. As the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Ganru Yen actually dared to go against her ancestors' wishes and seek peace with the Seven Absolute Sect. This is a great disrespect to the ancestors of Zoroastrianism. If the ancestors of Zoroastrianism who died in the hands of the Seven Absolute Sect found out about her actions, they wouldn't be able to rest in peace even if they were in the afterlife. Li Bing's words were filled with righteousness. It was as though he had forgotten something. Throughout history, the only time when the sword saint Feng Qingyang was around was when the Zoroastrianism had its members killed was when he was around. Although the Zoroastrianism had members who were killed by the Seven Absolute Sect, the number of Zoroastrianism members who were killed by the Seven Absolute Sect was far less than the number of Seven Absolute Sect members who were killed by the Zoroastrians. Moreover, even in the beginning, the Zoroastrianism was the one who provoked the Seven Absolute Sect first. That was why they had a feud with the Seven Absolute Sect. Since ancient times they would not rest until one of them was dead. Therefore, from a fair point of view, Li Bing's words were completely unreasonable. However, even though some of the Zoroastrianism members present on the scene felt the same way, they did not dare to say it out loud. If they said it out loud, it would be equivalent to slapping Li Bing in the face. Now, do you still think your disciple did nothing wrong? Suddenly, Li Bing looked at Qing Hua with a gaze as sharp as a knife. Qing Hua was rendered speechless when he heard Li Bing's words. It seems like you admit to your disciple's crimes as well. However, you can't escape your punishment. Towards the end, Li Bing's tone turned cold in an instant. Swoosh. Qing Hua's expression's words. Today you'll pay with your life. A celestial origin was origin celestial origin was origin celestial origin celestial. Celestial was with celestial origin sealing celestial was celestial origin name celestial duan celestial use celestial as celestial earth celestial's heavens. Judging from the might of this flood dragon-like celestial origin energy, Qing Hua would definitely die if it collided with him. Master. As soon as Li Bing finished speaking and made his move, Ganru Yan's expression changed drastically as she cried out in grief. As a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, Li Bing's attack was not something a mere cultivator at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage like Qing Hua could withstand. Before Qing Hua and the rest of the Zoroastrianism members present on the scene could react, the dragon-like energy from Li Bing was less than 10 meters away from Qing Hua. I'm going to die. In an instant, Qing Hua felt an extremely powerful force lock onto him, and before he could even circulate the Saint Qi in his body, an aura that seemed capable of destroying heaven and earth rushed towards him, causing him to only have time to think that he was about to die. Boom. A loud explosion rang in the air, causing the surroundings to tremble. An even faster and more powerful force surged toward Qing Hua from the direction of Ganru Yen, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. Before Li Bing's attack could kill Qing Hua, the person had stopped Li Bing's attack and saved Qing Hua. Who's that? Li Bing's expression changed drastically when he saw this. He did not expect someone would dare to stop him from making his move. Moreover, he did not expect someone from the Zoroastrianism would have the ability to stop him from making his move. He turned to look at the person who had stopped Qing Hua. Thank you for saving my life, Senior Qin. At the same time, Qing Hua, who had survived by a threat of life and death, immediately looked in the direction of his direct disciple and thanked the old man beside him. Qin Yiru. Li Bing recognized Qin Yiru when Qing Hua thanked him. His expression darkened immediately. Why are you here? He was no stranger to Qin Yiru. More than 4,000 years ago, he was a guardian of Zoroastrianism. He was ranked third on the Supreme Saint ranking and was famous throughout the world. Qin Yiru was a sectless cultivator, but he was ranked second on the Supreme Saint ranking. He was superior to Qing Hua in every aspect. Li Bing, the Dragon Clan sent you out to settle some matters, but you actually came back to the Fire Worship sect. If the Dragon Clan's powerhouses find out that you took the opportunity to come back to the Fire Worship sect and put on airs as an old fart, I'm afraid you won't have a good ending, right? Qin Yiru said mockingly, ignoring Li Bing's question. Li Bing's expression darkened when he heard Qin Yiru's words. Dragons? The high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism, including the four great guardians of Zoroastrianism, were confused when they heard Qin Yiru's words. It was not until Li Bing returned to Zoroastrianism that they realized there were bodiless celestials in Zoroastrianism as well. They were pleasantly surprised, but at the same time they were puzzled. Since there were bodiless celestials in Zoroastrianism, why had they not appeared before? They were even more confused when they heard Qin Yiru's words. Dragons? Why did they send the ancestor of Zoroastrianism out to do something? Were the dragons not a force that was much weaker than Zoroastrianism? Before they had time to think, their attention was drawn to Li Bing, who had suddenly opened his mouth. Qin Yi Ru, although I don't know why you're here, it's best if you stay out of Zoroastrianism's business. Li Bing said as he looked at Qin Yi Ru with a dark expression on his face. It's fine if you want me to stay out of Zoroastrianism's business. Qin Yi Ru said indifferently. Li Bing's expression softened when he heard Qin Yi Ru's words. As long as you apologize to Miss Ru Yen and Guardian Qinghua, obtain their forgiveness and get out of Zoroastrianism, I'll stay out of Zoroastrianism's business. Qin Yi Ru's next sentence infuriated Li Bing. Waves of terrifying energy rose from his body, shaking the void and leaving behind small black snake-like cracks in the void. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. When the black snake-like cracks appeared in the air, the people from Zoroastrianism could not help but gasp. The old ancestor is a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. 4,000 years ago the old ancestor failed the heavenly tribulation, but he didn't die. It's obvious he became a bodiless celestial. Since he's still alive, he must have successfully passed the fourth bodiless celestial tribulation and become a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. Senior Qin is also a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. Many people looked at Li Bing and Qin Yi Ru. Qin Yi Ru, you're seeking death. All of a sudden, Li Bing roared and shot towards Qin Yi Ru like a cannonball. Perfect timing. Facing the menacing Li Bing, Qin Yi Ru was not afraid at all as he faced them head-on. He had defeated Li Bing in the past. Today he still didn't put Li Bing in his eyes. Swoosh, swoosh. Whether it was Li Bing or Qin Yi Ru, both of them flew out at lightning speed and disappeared before everyone's eyes except for Duanling Tian. With their current cultivation bases, it was impossible for them to catch up with Li Bing and Qin Yi Ru's speed. Four-tribulation bodiless celestial? That old man is a four-tribulation bodiless celestial? Feng Qianwu, who was standing next to Kerr, who was standing next to Duanling Tian, was shocked and in disbelief. She had met Qin Yi Ru half a month ago. Moreover, she knew the old man was her elder brother Duan's servant. He addressed her elder brother Duan as master. However, she did not expect Qin Yi Ru would be so shocked. She did not expect her elder brother Duan's servant to be a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. As the successor of the Blazing Phoenix progeny, one of the five absolutes of the seven absolute sect, Feng Qianwu had long heard about bodiless celestials. Elder brother Duan is only an eminent celestial? Why would a four-tribulation bodiless celestial acknowledge him as his master? Feng Qianwu was puzzled. A three-tribulation bodiless celestial was stronger than an eminent celestial, let alone a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. Boom, 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 boom. A series of earth-shattering explosions rang in the air, catching Feng Qianwu's attention. Although she couldn't see their movements clearly, she could tell that Li Bing and Qin Yi Ru had already started fighting from the earth-shattering noises. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. As the earth-shattering explosions rang in the air, the people from Zoroastrianism, including the four great guardians of Zoroastrianism, were forced to retreat. Only Duanling Tian and the others remained motionless. At some point, Duanling Tian's celestial origin energy and saint origin surged out of his body before a gigantic black tortoise's silhouette appeared around him. It was the defensive divine ability, the black tortoise's barrier, that he had cast earlier. The black tortoise's barrier was the number one defensive divine ability of Zoroastrianism. Bang, 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 bang. Waves of energy that seemed capable of splitting mountains slammed against the black tortoise's silhouette, causing it to tremble. Chapter 2373. What a terrifying strength. So this is the strength of a four-tribulation bodiless celestial? He's too powerful. He's too powerful. Although we can't see their movements, we can see how intense their battle is based on the shattering of space every time they exchange blows. After the group of people from the Zoroastrianism sect retreated to a safe distance, they were shocked when they saw the cracks in the air. The cracks in the void were like little black snakes coiling around, wriggling their bodies. Boom, 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 boom. At the same time, the shockwaves from the battle between Li Bing and Qin Yi Ru slammed into the nearby floating islands, causing the mansions on the nearby floating islands to be reduced to rubble. Sand and rocks flew up into the air. What's going on? It seems like they're fighting in the sky. Isn't that where Lord Sect Leader and Lord Protector cultivate? The commotion caused by the fight between Li Bing and Qin Yi Ru was not small. It did not take long before it alerted the elders and disciples of the fire worship sect on the Saint Island in the fire worship sect. They immediately rose into the air and rushed over. However, when they arrived in the sky, they were hit by the shockwaves, so they could not get close to the battle. They could only vaguely hear the thunderous explosions. Soon after, they learned about the situation from the elders of the Zoroastrianism sect who were present. The elders and disciples of the Zoroastrianism sect who had just arrived were in an uproar again. The Zoroastrianism sect has a bodiless celestial? Is it Li Bing, the guardian of the Zoroastrianism sect from 4,000 years ago? He's a four-tribulation bodiless celestial now? The elders and disciples of the Zoroastrianism sect were shocked. This was because they did not know the fire worship sect had a bodiless celestial. Moreover, it was a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. 4,000 years ago, Senior Qin Ru was as famous as the old ancestor. His strength was even stronger than the old ancestor. I wonder who's stronger among the two four-tribulation bodiless celestials after more than 4,000 years. Many people were curious about this. Based on the current situation, it seems like both of them are evenly matched. Let's wait and see. I think we'll be able to determine the winner. We can only wait. Although the people of the Zoroastrianism sect could not see Li Bing and Qin Ru's movements clearly, they were eager to see the outcome of the battle. Among the people present on the scene, Duan Lingtian was the only one who could see Li Bing and Qin Ru's movements clearly. That Li Bing isn't weak either. Right now, 100 moves have passed, and no one has gained the upper hand. Since Duan Lingtian could clearly see the duo's actions, it did not take him long to figure it out. Whoosh, whoosh. Soon after, Qin Ru cast two of his three strongest saber techniques, the Peerless Saber and the Apocalyptic Saber. As for the Saber of Purification, he did not use it. Although it was powerful, it was not as powerful as the Apocalyptic Saber. Moreover, it would injure the people of the Zoroastrianism sect who were present on the scene. Since his master's wife's sister was the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism sect, he did not dare to kill the people of the Zoroastrianism sect. He actually managed to block it. Duan Lingtian was slightly surprised when he saw Li Bing was evenly matched with Qin Ru after blocking two of Qin Ru's attacks. After all, Qin Ru was considered one of the stronger four-tribulation bodiless celestials. This Li Bing has some tricks up his sleeve. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Qin Ru, even if we use all our techniques, we're still evenly matched. It's meaningless to continue fighting. Li Bing said threateningly. Although I don't know why you're helping Gan Ru Yan and Qinghua, I still have to warn you. You better leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll use my communication jade token to summon Wang Chong. With the two of us joining forces, you'll definitely die. Wang Chong. As soon as Li Bing finished speaking, an uproar broke out among the people of the Zoroastrianism. Wang Chong. Isn't he the guardian of the Zoroastrianism from 4,000 years ago? Ancestor Wang Chong? He's still alive after failing the heavenly tribulation? If he's still alive, he must be a four-tribulation bodiless celestial as well. Naturally, the people of the Zoroastrianism sect were aware of Wang Chong's existence as well. Wang Chong? He's also a bodiless celestial? Upon hearing Li Bing's words, Qin Ru couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. It was apparent that he didn't expect this. He did not expect Wang Chong to have become a bodiless celestial as well. Wang Chong was from the same era as him and Li Bing. Although Wang Chong was not as strong as Li Bing, he was not too far off. More importantly, Wang Chong was a four-tribulation bodiless celestial as well. If Wang Chong joined forces with Li Bing, he would not be a match for Wang Chong. Are you afraid now? If you're afraid, get out of my Zoroastrianism. Li Bing sneered when he heard Qin Ru's exclamation. He thought Qin Ru was afraid. This time, Qin Ru fell silent. At this moment, elementary devouring tactic. Duan Lingtian's celestial origin energy and saint origin surged out of his body at an astonishing speed through his 99 saint veins. He used the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, to form a whirlpool that merged with his body. A terrifying devouring force surged out of the whirlpool as though it could devour the heavens and earth. In just a blink of an eye, all the heaven and earth spirit energy in the holy land of Zoroastrianism and Zoroastrianism were devoured by Duan Lingtian. Apart from that, Duan Lingtian continued to devour the Saint Stone Reserve in the Zoroastrianism's base. In just a blink of an eye, the elementary devouring tactic he had cast had reached its limit. As expected of the Saint Stone Reserve of Zoroastrianism, even after devouring so much of it, it's still not affected at all. It's as though the heaven and earth spirit energy I've devoured is just a drop in the ocean to them. Duan Lingtian used his divine consciousness to investigate the situation of the Saint Stone Reserve in the Zoroastrianism's base. From the moment Duan Lingtian cast the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, to the moment he used the elementary devouring tactic to its limit, only a breath had passed. Sandao, stand down. Before anyone noticed the change in the heaven and earth spirit energy in the air, Duan Lingtian ordered Chen Yiru to stand down. Yes, master. Chen Yiru replied immediately. In the next moment, bang. After exchanging a few blows with Li Bing, Chen Yiru retreated to Duan Lingtian's side and stood respectfully behind Duan Lingtian. Master. At the same time, Li Bing appeared after Chen Yiru retreated. He looked at Duan Lingtian, who was being escorted by Chen Yiru, in disbelief. Chen Yiru addressed this young man as master? Li Bing, who was filled with anxiety, immediately extended his divine consciousness and shrouded Duan Lingtian. He was anxious because he instinctively felt that Duan Lingtian's strength was not weak at all. Since Chen Yiru had acknowledged someone as his master, he was most likely stronger than Chen Yiru. However, when he probed Duan Lingtian's cultivation base, he could not help but sneer at Chen Yiru. Chen Yiru, you're getting worse as you age. You're a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, but you actually acknowledged an eminent celestial as your master. You're a disgrace to us bodiless celestials. After using his divine consciousness to probe Duan Lingtian's soul and confirming that Duan Lingtian was only an eminent celestial, Li Bing no longer looked at Duan Lingtian. I'm curious as well. Why would a four-tribulation bodiless celestial acknowledge an eminent celestial as his master? At the same time, many elders and disciples from the fire worship sect asked the same question. Perhaps, it's because he's the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the seven absolute sect. That seems to be the only explanation. Many Zoroastrianism elders and disciples chimed in as well. Although their voices were not loud, Li Bing heard them clearly. Li Bing's eyes lit up when he heard this. His eyes seemed to have transformed into the brightest stars in the night sky. The successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the seven absolute sect? The sect leader of the seven absolute sect? Li Bing shifted his gaze from Chen Yiru to Duan Lingtian at lightning speed. He asked anxiously, You're Duan Lingtian? You know me? Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow. Ah! Li Bing could not help but laugh when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. As the saying goes, one can wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search only to find it by chance. Ah! Li Bing's laughter lasted for a long time. And the reason for this was naturally because he was too excited. Apart from killing Ganru Yen, the new sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, Duan Lingtian, was also here to look for Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the seven absolute sect, and kill him. Not only would he be able to avenge Tang Xian, the former sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, but he would also be able to show off in front of the bodiless celestials from the Heaven Divination sect and the Zhuangzi Buddhism in the dragons. It was killing two birds with one stone. However, although he had such thoughts, he did not intend to waste too much time looking for Duan Lingtian. After all, Duan Lingtian's priority was to complete the task given to him by Di Qin in the dragons. However, now, Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, seemed to have taken the initiative to come knocking on his door. Chapter 2374. Idiot. Duan Lingtian indifferently spat out two words while Li Bing was laughing excitedly and did not stop for a long time. Although his voice was not loud, it was not drowned out by Li Bing's loud laughter. It was clearly heard by everyone present. Idiot. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, Li Bing's laughter stopped abruptly. It was as though someone had grabbed Li Bing's neck to stop him from laughing. At this moment, all the disciples of Zoroastrianism turned to look at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian called our ancestor an idiot? Did I hear wrongly? One of the disciples of Zoroastrianism asked in shock. He thought he had heard wrongly. You didn't hear wrongly. He really did call our ancestor an idiot. The other fire worship sect's disciple gulped as he looked at Duan Lingtian in disbelief. He could not figure out what was going on. How could Duan Lingtian be so bold as to call the old ancestor of the fire worship sect an idiot? The old ancestor of the fire worship sect was a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. Although their ancestor was evenly matched with Duan Lingtian's four-tribulation bodiless celestial, they did not know what to do. However, they did not hear Duan Lingtian's words. Did Zoroastrianism have another ancestor who was a four-tribulation bodiless celestial who could come over at any time? If their ancestor came over, the two ancestors of Zoroastrianism would join forces and the four-tribulation bodiless celestial next to Duanling Tian would not be a match for them at all. At this moment, almost all of the elders and disciples of Zoroastrianism shared the same thought. For this reason, they could not help but shake their heads when they looked at Duanling Tian. He's crazy. Duanling Tian is crazy. In the Tao Martial Saint Land, eminent celestials are not to be humiliated. Bodiless celestials who are stronger than eminent celestials are even more so. Duanling Tian is seeking death. I really don't know where he got the courage to call the old ancestor an idiot. Once the old ancestor summons the other old ancestor of the fire worship sect back, that four-tribulation bodiless celestial servant of his will be useless. Most of the elders and disciples of Zoroastrianism thought Duanling Tian was crazy. How dare you call me an idiot? While the group of fire worship sect's elders and disciples were discussing among themselves, Li Bing looked at Duanling Tian coldly. It was as though he wanted to freeze Duanling Tian into an ice sculpture. At the same time, the power in Li Bing's body skyrocketed. It was as if he had transformed into a ball of flame that soared into the sky, causing the void to tremble. Cracks in the void appeared one after another, twisting around Li Bing's body like tiny snakes slithering around his body. It was a visually stunning sight. I'll give you a chance. Duanling Tian ignored Li Bing's question. Instead, he looked at Li Bing indifferently and said, "Swear to the lightning oath. Swear on the lightning penalty oath that you'll never return to Zoroastrianism or ask about Zoroastrianism again. Then disappear from my sight as fast as you can and get out of Zoroastrianism." The moment Duanling Tian's words left his mouth, the entire place fell silent again. Even Li Bing was stunned by Duanling Tian's words. He wondered if he was hallucinating. The current sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect, a mere eminent celestial, actually wanted him to swear on the lightning penalty oath? At this moment, Li Bing was not the only one who thought he was hallucinating. Even the other Zoroastrianism elders and disciples present on the scene thought they were hallucinating as well. Did I hear wrongly? This Duanling Tian wants the old ancestor to swear on the lightning penalty oath and get out of Zoroastrianism? You didn't hear wrongly. I heard it too. I thought I heard wrongly. Heavens! Can someone tell me, where does this Duanling Tian get the confidence to say such words? When the Zoroastrianism elders and disciples regained their senses, they were in an uproar. They looked at Duanling Tian as though they were looking at a monster. At this moment, the Zoroastrianism elders and disciples were not the only ones who were shocked. Even the four guardians of Zoroastrianism were dumbfounded. They did not know where Duanling Tian got his confidence from. Guardian Ling Tian. Didn't he hear the old ancestor say there's another four-tribulation bodiless celestial in the Zoroastrianism who can return at any time? He's only an eminent celestial. Although he has a four-tribulation bodiless celestial as a servant, it's still not enough for him to contend with two four-tribulation bodiless celestials in the Zoroastrianism, right? Where did he get his confidence from? Unlike the Zoroastrianism elders and disciples who thought Duanling Tian was crazy, the four Zoroastrianism guardians were curious. Where did Duanling Tian get the confidence to do this? They had known Duanling Tian for a long time. They clearly remembered all the things Duanling Tian had done since he joined the Zoroastrianism. Duanling Tian had never been at a disadvantage during his time in the Zoroastrianism bodiless celestial sect. Every time he did something shocking, the people around him did not think highly of him. However, he always managed to shock them. For this reason, they thought Duanling Tian was arrogant. It was unlikely that Duanling Tian was arrogant and dared to act so recklessly in front of the old ancestor of Zoroastrianism. Duanling Tian most likely had his own confidence as well. However, they could not help but wonder where Duanling Tian's confidence came from. Is it possible that Guardian Ling Tian has more than one four-tribulation bodiless celestial as a servant? Does he have more than one four-tribulation bodiless celestial as well? Could it be that Ling Tian, the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, has a trump card that allows him to be unafraid of a four-tribulation bodiless celestial? The four guardians of the Zoroastrianism had many thoughts in their minds, but they were not certain if they were right. Zifeng suddenly looked in the direction of Duanling Tian. It was as though he had discovered something new. He immediately sent a voice transmission to Qinghua, who was standing next to him. Guardian Qinghua, that girl Ruyen. She doesn't seem to be surprised by what Guardian Ling Tian said to the old ancestor. Based on her calm expression, it seems like she trusts Ling Tian a lot. She thinks Ling Tian has the confidence to do this. Protector Zifeng's voice was filled with disbelief as he spoke. Why don't you ask her? Where does Ling Tian get his confidence from? Zifeng continued to send a voice transmission to Qinghua. Upon hearing Zifeng's words, Qinghua instinctively turned to look at his direct disciple, Gan Ruyan, who was also the current sect leader of the Zoroastrianism. As expected, Ruyan's expression was calm. Gan Ruyan's expression remained calm. It was as though she was not worried about Duan Ling Tian's words at all. Ruyan, Guardian Ling Tian, where do you get the confidence to say that? Qinghua asked through voice transmission. Confidence. Gan Ruyan was stunned when she heard Qinghua's voice transmission. However, when she regained her senses, she also realized what her master was asking. She immediately replied through voice transmission, Master, I'm not sure what to do. Master, even if the other four tribulation bodiless celestial mentioned by the old ancestor of the Zoroastrianism, they wouldn't be a match for him even if they joined forces. His confidence comes from his strength. Otherwise, why do you think Qin Yi Ru, a four tribulation bodiless celestial, would acknowledge him as his master? It's because Qin Yi Ru is weaker than him. Gan Ruyan did not conceal anything from her master and told him the truth. What? Qinghua was shocked when he heard Gan Ruyan's voice transmission. Even if the two four tribulation bodiless celestials from the Zoroastrianism joined forces, they would still be no match for Duan Ling Tian? Qin Yi Ru had acknowledged Duan Ling Tian as his master because he was weaker than Duan Ling Tian. Isn't he just an eminent celestial? Qinghua asked through voice transmission. In the Tao Martial Saint Land, if one isn't a bodiless celestial, the limit of one's cultivation base is the eminent celestial. However, it's impossible for him to be a bodiless celestial. How can he be stronger than two four tribulation bodiless celestials? Master, it's true that he's an eminent celestial, but he's different from ordinary eminent celestials in the Tao Martial Saint Land. Gan Ruyan replied through voice transmission. In any case, there's no need to worry about him. Two four tribulation bodiless celestials are no match for him. If it was another person who told Qinghua this, Qinghua would never believe such a ridiculous thing even if he was beaten to death. Yet now those words were spoken by his personal disciple. Moreover, he was certain that this personal disciple of his would not lie to him. Gasp. After inhaling sharply, Qinghua sent a voice transmission to Zifeng and relayed Gan Ruyan's words to him. What? Ruyan said even if two four tribulation bodiless celestials join forces, they won't be a match for Ling Tian. How's that possible? After hearing Qinghua's voice transmission, Protector Zifeng turned pale with fright. After a short while, Protector Zifeng sent a voice transmission to Protector Hong Yun and Protector Ling Ying. The two of them were similarly stunned and were unable to recover from their shock for a long time. Give me a chance. I'll swear on the lightning penalty oath that I'll never return to Zoroastrianism, and I'll never ask about Zoroastrianism again. Duan Ling Tian's words stunned Li Bing for a moment. When he regained his senses, he could no longer suppress the anger in his heart and completely let it out. Duan Ling Tian, you're seeking death. A furious roar reverberated in the air. Li Bing's energy exploded as he prepared to attack Duan Ling Tian. Old Ancestor. Chapter 2375. Upon hearing Zifeng's words, Li Bing, who was about to attack Duan Ling Tian, suddenly froze. A hint of confusion could be seen in his eyes as he looked at Zifeng. When he arrived earlier, he knew this person was the leader of the four great guardians of the Zoroastrianism. He was once a guardian of the Zoroastrianism. Moreover, he was the leader of the three guardians of the Zoroastrianism 4,000 years ago. For this reason he thought highly of Zifeng, the current leader of the guardians of the Zoroastrianism. If someone else had called out to him at this moment, he would not have bothered at all. Old Ancestor, I heard from Guardian Qinghua that his direct disciple, Gan Ruyan, personally told him that even if you join forces with the other four tribulation bodiless celestials, you're still no match for Duan Ling Tian. Zifeng quickly reminded Li Bing through voice transmission when he saw Zifeng looking at him. You mean even if I join forces with Wang Chong, who's also a four tribulation bodiless celestial, we're still no match for Duan Ling Tian? Li Bing originally thought that Zifeng had something important to tell him, but he didn't expect to hear such a message. He couldn't help but laugh in anger. He looked at Zifeng and said coldly. Unlike Zifeng's voice transmission, Li Bing said it out loud. For this reason, his words caused a commotion among the crowd. Based on what the old ancestor said, Guardian Zifeng said that even if he joins forces with the other four tribulation bodiless celestial, there's still no match for Duan Ling Tian? That should be the case. Otherwise, why would the old ancestor say such a thing? Guardian Zifeng, have you lost your mind? The group of fire worship sect's elders and disciples stared at Zifeng with their mouths agape. They could not figure out what was going on. Why would the Lord Guardian of Zoroastrianism say such absurd words to a four-tribulation bodiless immortal patriarch of Zoroastrianism? Duanling Tian is only an eminent celestial. Even if he has a four-tribulation bodiless celestial as a servant, he won't be able to stop two four-tribulation bodiless celestials from Zoroastrianism. That's right. Even if an eminent celestial and a four-tribulation bodiless celestial join forces, they won't be stronger than two four-tribulation bodiless celestials. For Protector Zifeng to remind the ancestor like this, could it be that he's intentionally protecting Duanling Tian? Many Zoroastrianism elders and disciples believed that Zifeng was deceiving Li Bing. Based on their words, they also believed that Zifeng was intentionally protecting Duanling Tian. All of you. Zifeng did not expect Li Bing would repeat what he had said through voice transmission. He did not expect so many Zoroastrianism elders and disciples would suspect that he was intentionally protecting Duanling Tian. Shut up. Li Bing shouted coldly and interrupted Zifeng. Even if you want to protect Duanling Tian, he won't be able to escape death today. I'll deal with you after I kill him. Based on Li Bing's words, not only did he not believe Li Bing's words, but he even said he would look for Zifeng after he killed Duanling Tian. Upon seeing this, the other three Zoroastrianism guardians could not help but smile wryly. Although they were mentally prepared for this outcome, they could not help but smile wryly when they saw it with their own eyes. If they were in Li Bing's shoes, they would not believe Zifeng's words as well. The reason they believed Zifeng was because they had been friends for many years. Moreover, they understood the character of the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Ganru Yen, very well. Li Bing. Duanling Tian was amused when he saw Zifeng's kindness being taken for granted. He looked at Li Bing coldly and said, "Based on your words, you don't intend to follow my instructions and swear on the lightning penalty oath? Who do you think you are? Do you think you're worthy of me, Li Bing, swearing on the lightning penalty oath?" Li Bing looked at Duanling Tian again with a mocking expression on his face. The energy in his body that had been reduced increased again. A majestic and vast aura swept out from Li Bing's body. "I've given you a chance." Duanling Tian narrowed his eyes when he heard Li Bing's words. He said indifferently, "Since you don't cherish this chance, you'll stay here for the rest of your life." Duanling Tian's words implied that he wanted to kill Li Bing. Now that Li Bing was dead, he would naturally stay here forever. Shameless boasting. Li Bing, who was further enraged by Duanling Tian, shouted again. His body moved as though he had transformed into a cannonball as he shot toward Duanling Tian. "You'll know soon enough if I'm boasting or not." Duanling Tian smirked as he stomped on the air and charged forward as well. He was not afraid at all. Whoosh, whoosh. In just a blink of an eye, Duanling Tian's figure disappeared before everyone's eyes except for Chen Yiru. He's so fast. Duanling Tian's speed shocked the four great guardians of Zoroastrianism. Zifeng, who was at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage, was especially shocked. Even if it's an eminent celestial, it's impossible for him to completely disappear before my eyes when he shows his speed, right? At this moment, Zifeng was 100% certain Duanling Tian was lying. He was certain Ganru Yen was not lying. However, even if he was 100% certain Ganru Yen was not lying, what could he do? The old ancestor of Zoroastrianism did not believe him at all. As soon as Li Bing flew out, he saw Duanling Tian charging at him fearlessly. Initially, he had a disdainful expression on his face. However, when he saw Duanling Tian's speed was not inferior to his expression changed drastically. How's this possible? The disdainful expression on Li Bing's face disappeared and was replaced with shock. This isn't a speed that an eminent celestial should be capable of. His speed is not inferior to mine. At this moment, Li Bing was also extremely flustered, because he had never dreamt that he would be able to escape. He did not expect Duanling Tian's speed to be so fast. His soul is clearly that of an eminent celestial. I can't sense any aura of a bodiless celestial from him. He's indeed an eminent celestial. However, how could an eminent celestial possess such an exaggerated speed? Li Bing was completely dumbfounded. Bang! A loud explosion rang in the air. Li Bing slammed his hands down in the air when he was about to charge at Duanling Tian. Bang! Immediately, a boundless power struck the void, shaking the 9 heavens, leaving behind a series of hideous cracks in the void. As soon as the cracks appeared, Li Bing took advantage of the force and shot up into the sky, dodging Duan Lingtian who was charging at him. Sword come. Duan Lingtian said indifferently as Li Bing soared into the sky. He raised his hand and his celestial origin energy that was mixed with Saint origin energy formed a sword ray in his hand. The sword light continued to converge and in the end, it actually seemed to have transformed into a 3-foot-long sword. All of this happened in just a blink of an eye. When Duan Lingtian and Li Bing's figures passed each other in two different directions, Duan Lingtian and Li Bing's figures passed each other. Sword-wielding technique. Duan Lingtian shouted in a low voice. The 3-foot-long blade in his hand that was completely condensed from his own energy whistled out like a bolt of lightning. It was like a meteor that streaked across the night sky. Swoosh. A short-lived sword cry rang in the air as a sword ray flashed in front of Li Bing's eyes. How fast? As soon as Li Bing thought to himself, he felt a sharp pain in his right shoulder. Then he saw his right arm had been severed at the shoulder. The cut was clean. From the beginning until the end he did not see it clearly. When exactly did that sword ray sweep past his right shoulder and cut off his right arm from shoulder to shoulder? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Duan Lingtian stomped his feet and reappeared in front of everyone. More cracks appeared in the void and did not close for a long time. The spatial cracks were lined up in a row, as if they were a group of soldiers that were being inspected. These cracks were formed when Duan Lingtian tore the void apart with his sword. How's this possible? How did Duan Lingtian sever the old ancestor's shoulder? At the same time, Li Bing appeared in front of the elders and disciples of Zoroastrianism. They instantly discovered Li Bing's right arm had been severed at the shoulder. Swoosh. However, just as they discovered that Li Bing's right arm had been chopped off from the shoulder, a condensed energy whizzed out from the gap in Li Bing's right arm, and it continued to flow in reverse. Under everyone's watchful eyes, it transformed into a new arm. It was similar to the arm that had been severed earlier. The body of a bodiless celestial was different from that of a human. It was similar to an energy body. As long as a bodiless celestial was not killed with a single blow, he would be able to use a certain amount of energy to heal his body. 5 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial. You're able to cast an attack comparable to a 5 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial. When Li Bing looked at Duan Lingtian again, it was as if he had seen a ghost. His face was filled with shock and disbelief. He could not figure it out. How could a mere eminent celestial cast an attack comparable to a 5 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial? Before Duan Lingtian could reply to Li Bing, Chen Yiru scoffed coldly. Li Bing, I'm afraid you're unaware that my master is the successor of Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. He has inherited Senior Feng Qingyang's legacy. Feng Qingyang? Upon hearing Chen Yiru's words, Li Bing's expression changed drastically. Oh, how could I have forgotten about him? He was familiar with Sword Saint Feng Qingyang, the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 Absolute sect. Back then, Feng Qingyang managed to kill an 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial when he was just an eminent celestial. Chapter 2376. When Li Bing looked at Duan Lingtian again, there was no longer any trace of arrogance in his eyes. Even the disdain that was originally there was completely gone at this moment. Duan Lingtian was the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 Absolute sect, and the current sect leader of the 7 Absolute sect. He was the successor of Sword Saint Feng Qingyang and had received Feng Qingyang's true teachings. Perhaps, Duan Lingtian was not as strong as Feng Qingyang, who was able to kill an 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial when he was only an eminent celestial. However, Duan Lingtian's attack was comparable to a 5 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial's attack. It left long and narrow cracks in the void. Although the cracks were closing at a speed visible to the naked eye, it would take at least 15 minutes for the cracks to close completely. An eminent celestial's attack is comparable to a 5 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial. Li Bing's pupils constricted, and his heart began to tremble continuously as if it would never stop. You're quite lucky? That attack didn't kill you. Duan Lingtian said as he glanced at Li Bing indifferently. Duan Lingtian's expression was indifferent from the beginning until the end, and the gaze he used to look at Li Bing was incomparably tranquil as well. It was as though he was a god looking down on the world. But, this time you won't be so lucky. Earlier, Duan Lingtian had casually thrown his sword in the direction of Li Bing. He did not use his divine consciousness to lock onto Li Bing. Otherwise, Li Bing would have died from the attack. Swoosh. As though in response to Duan Lingtian's words, the 3-foot-long blade that had cut off Li Bing's arm made a turn in the air and returned to Duan Lingtian's hand. After all, Duanling Tian had used his celestial origin energy and saint origin to form the 3-foot-long blade. After using it earlier, a portion of it had been depleted. Due to this, its luster had dimmed significantly. However, when Duanling Tian channeled his saint origin energy into it, it regained its original appearance. Duanling Tian, you can't kill me. You can't kill me. When Li Bing saw Duanling Tian standing with his sword and staring at him coldly, horror dawned on his face when he realized the danger he was in. Gasp, 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 gasp. When Li Bing's voice, which was filled with fear, entered the ears of the people present, one by one they recovered from their shock. After regaining their senses, they could not help but inhale a breath of cold air. When they looked at Duanling Tian again, fear could be seen in their eyes. Duanling Tian had cut off Li Bing's arm in just one blow. Moreover, based on Li Bing's words, it was impossible for him to kill Li Bing. The power of Duanling Tian's attack was comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial's attack? This is a joke, right? Duanling Tian's attack is comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial's attack when he's just an eminent celestial? This isn't realistic at all. Shouldn't an eminent celestial's strength be comparable to a 2nd tribulation bodiless celestial? Even a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial is much stronger than an eminent celestial. That's right. It's unbelievable. The people from the fire worship sect were shocked. They could not understand what was going on. How could Duanling Tian's attack be comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial when he's just an eminent celestial? Although the 4 guardians of Zoroastrianism knew Duanling Tian was much stronger than Li Bing through Gan Ruyan's reminder, they were still shocked. However, there was a difference between hearing about it and seeing it with their own eyes. He's only an eminent celestial, but his attack is comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? Just like the other people from Zoroastrianism, they were puzzled by this as well. Elder brother Duan. In the distance, when Feng Tianwu who stood next to Ge looked at Duanling Tian again, her eyes could not help but reveal waves of shock and disbelief. He hasn't even entered the Sword Saint secret zone left behind by ancestor Feng Qingyang, but he's already able to cast such a powerful attack as an eminent celestial? As the successor of the Blazing Phoenix progeny, the 5th absolute of the 7 absolute sect, Feng Tianwu naturally knew about this. Feng Qingyang, the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the 1st absolute of the 7 absolute sect, had killed the dragons and 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. She would not be surprised if her elder brother Duan had become as strong as Feng Qingyang after entering the Sword Saint secret zone. However, the problem was, her elder brother Duan had not entered the Sword Saint secret zone yet. Could it be that elder brother Duan has already entered the Sword Saint secret zone? No. One of the keys to enter the Sword Saint secret zone is still in the hands of Senior Uncle Seer. Moreover, Senior Uncle Seer said that when Big Brother Duan enters the Sword Saint secret zone, the other successors of the 6 absolutes can enter as well. We can use our own abilities to search for our own fortuitous encounters. If elder brother Duan wants to enter the Sword Saint secret zone, Senior Uncle Prophet will definitely know about it and inform us to return. When Feng Qinwu thought about this, she concluded that elder brother Duan had not entered the Sword Saint secret zone. She was certain that her elder brother Duan had not entered the Sword Saint secret zone yet. Senior Uncle Prophet said that before entering the Sword Saint secret zone, even if elder brother Duan has become an eminent celestial and has comprehended the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, to the highest level, elder brother Duan's strength is only comparable to a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial at most. However, currently, elder brother Duan's strength is comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. This means Senior Uncle Prophet's judgment is wrong. Could it be that Big Brother Duan had another fortuitous encounter that caused his strength to be even stronger than what Senior Uncle Heavenly Secret had predicted? Feng Qinwu could not help but think to herself. It was also because Duanling Tian didn't know what Feng Tianwu was thinking at this moment, otherwise he would surely be extremely shocked. As it turned out, the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, was only a basic inheritance that Sword Saint Feng Qingyang had left for him. In the Sword Saint secret zone, there was another inheritance that Feng Qingyang had left for him. Moreover, once he entered the Sword Saint secret zone, he might possess the strength to kill an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial even though he was only an eminent celestial, just like Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. I can't kill you? Upon hearing Li Bing's words, Duanling Tian could not help but laugh inwardly. However, a mocking smile appeared on his face. Why can't I kill you? Just because you're the ancestor of Zoroastrianism? Don't forget that I'm not a member of Zoroastrianism. Your status as the ancestor of Zoroastrianism is useless in front of me. When Duan Tian reached the end of his sentence, the mocking smile on his face deepened. I'm a member of the dragons? You can't afford to offend the dragons behind me. When Li Bing mentioned the dragons, it was as though he had found a life-saving straw. Dragons? Upon hearing Li Bing's words, Duan Tian could not help but laugh. I didn't expect the ancestor of Zoroastrianism would say he's a member of the dragons at this critical moment. Does this mean you've betrayed Zoroastrianism and joined the dragons? Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Upon hearing Duan Tian's words, all the Zoroastrianism members present on the scene shifted their attention to Li Bing in unison. Their gazes were filled with confusion, and disbelief. They did not expect Duan Tian would say something like this. They did not expect their ancestor of Zoroastrianism would say he was a member of the dragons at this critical moment. Was he not the ancestor of Zoroastrianism? How did he become a member of the dragons? Duan Tian. Sensing the gazes of the Zoroastrianism members, Li Bing's expression darkened. As the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, you should know why I said that. Why are you playing dumb? Playing dumb? Duan Tian laughed. I'm sorry? I don't know what you mean. Why don't you explain to them why you said you were a member of the dragons? Why did you say you had the protection of the dragons? You. Upon hearing Duan Tian's words, Li Bing was so angry that he almost vomited blood. If he could say it, would he not? Once he said it, it would mean that the secret of Zoroastrianism being supported by the dragons would be exposed. The dragons had their own rules. If the bodiless celestials from the three great sects exposed this secret, they would be tortured for 81 days before they were killed. For this reason, even if he was given the courage of 100 men, he would not dare to explain it to the Zoroastrianism members. Since you have nothing to say, I'll send you to hell. Duan Tian's gaze turned cold when he saw Li Bing was unable to utter another word. He immediately extended his divine consciousness and locked onto Li Bing. No. As soon as Duan Tian's divine consciousness locked onto Li Bing discovered it. His expression changed drastically and his eyes widened in anger. He knew what this meant. Swoosh. The short-lived sound of a sword whistling through the air appeared again, and a sword ray flashed before Li Bing's eyes. In the next moment, Li Bing lost consciousness. From the beginning until the end, he did not even have time to react, let alone fight back. The old ancestor is dead? All the members of Zoroastrianism, including the four great guardians of Zoroastrianism, were shocked. Elder brother Duan killed a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial so easily. Even an ordinary 5-tribulation bodiless celestial is no match for him, right? Feng Tianwu's heart was filled with shock. Duan Tian, the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute Sect, and the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, had killed Li Bing, a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial who was a guardian of the Seven Absolute Sect 4,000 years ago. Chapter 2377. A bodiless celestial from Zoroastrianism has been born. The bodiless celestial from Zoroastrianism was a guardian of Zoroastrianism 4,000 years ago. His name is Li Bing. He was ranked 3rd on the Supreme Saint ranking back then. 4,000 years ago, he failed the celestial tribulation and became a bodiless celestial. Even after 4,000 years, he didn't die from the bodiless celestial tribulation. In other words, he's a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial. A 3-tribulation bodiless celestial is stronger than an eminent celestial. A 4-tribulation bodiless celestial is even stronger than a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. Initially, the entire western region and the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were shocked by the appearance of a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial from Zoroastrianism. However, following that, another piece of news spread, which made them even more shocked. Duan Tian, the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny and the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, killed Li Bing, a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial, in the Zoroastrianism's estate. The upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land fell silent when the news spread. This was only the calm before the storm. After a moment of silence, the entire upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land was in an uproar. Isn't Duan Tian an eminent celestial? An eminent celestial is weaker than a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. How could he kill a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial? News of bodiless celestials has spread throughout the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. How could an eminent celestial kill a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial? You must be joking. When more than 90% of the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land expressed their doubts, another piece of news spread out, causing these people to cry out in shock. Sword Saint Feng Qingyang killed an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial when he was only an eminent celestial. He didn't know where this news came from. As soon as it spread, it caused a huge commotion in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. He's only an eminent celestial, but he managed to kill an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. Is the Sword Saint so terrifying? If this is true, then it's not surprising that Duan Lingtian managed to kill a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial as an eminent celestial. After all, the Sword Saint from back then was also the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 absolute sect. Furthermore, I've heard that Duan Lingtian is the successor of that Sword Saint. After learning about how Sword Saint Feng Qingyang had killed an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial when he was only an eminent celestial, nobody doubted Duan Lingtian's strength anymore. However, the shock in their hearts did not lessen at all. Duan Lingtian, the current sect leader of the 7 absolute sect, is capable of killing a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial? Is there anyone in the 3 great sects who's a match for him? That's right. If there's no one in the 3 great sects who's a match for him, doesn't that mean he can annihilate the 3 great sects on his own? The current sect leader of the Zoroastrianism is his wife's sister. I don't think he'll annihilate the Zoroastrianism. However, what about the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect? Is there anyone in those 2 great sects who's a match for Duan Lingtian? While similar discussions were going on in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect were in an uproar as well. In the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect, Duan Lingtian is capable of killing a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial? Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect, had a grave expression on his face. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. It has only been a few years, but he's already so strong. Lang Qianjin still remembered. Previously, when he and the people from the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect went to the Zoroastrianism sect to look for Duan Lingtian had to rely on Tang Xian, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism sect. At that time, although Duan Lingtian had displayed extraordinary strength, he was only slightly stronger than Hao Shuang, the strongest person below the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage in the Dao Martial Saint Land. After a few years, not only did Duan Lingtian kill Tang Xian, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism sect, but he had also killed Li Bing, a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Zoroastrianism sect. Even a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Zoroastrianism sect was killed by him. There's no bodiless celestial in the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect. Lang Qianjin's face turned gloomy when he thought of this. However, I've never heard of a bodiless celestial from the Zoroastrianism sect before. Where did Li Bing come from? Lang Qianjin was also puzzled by this. Currently, Lang Qianjin was not the only one in the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect who had a gloomy expression on his face. Even the others were in a panic when they learned that Duan Lingtian had killed a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial. Some of them were even considering leaving the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect to seek refuge. After all, if Duan Lingtian came, they would not be able to defend themselves at all. When the nest is overturned, no egg will remain unharmed. In the Heaven Divination sect, pass down my orders. Summon all those who are searching for the members of the 7 absolute sect. From now on, don't provoke the 7 absolute sect. Mo Xian, the Grand Priest of the Heaven Divination sect, ordered. Mo Xian had also heard about the news from the western region. He knew Duan Lingtian was strong enough to kill a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial. For this reason, he did not dare to let the members of the Heaven Divination sect provoke the 7 absolute sect. The members of the Heaven Divination sect were not surprised when they received Mo Xian's order. Instead, they felt relieved. Rumor has it that every time a member of the 7 absolute sect makes a high-profile appearance, it signifies the arrival of a new era. Previously, the Sword Saint Feng Qingyang appeared in the 7 absolute sect. This time it's the same for Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian is too powerful. He killed a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial as an eminent celestial. I wonder how strong he is. Perhaps he's comparable to the Sword Saint Feng Qingyang? The atmosphere in the Heaven Divination sect was tense. Swoosh. After giving the order, Mo Xian, the Grand Priest of the Heaven Divination sect, flew out of the Heaven Divination sect's estate. After leaving the Heaven Divination sect's estate, he headed in the direction of the Zhuangzi Buddhism's estate. Although he had ordered the members of the Heaven Divination sect not to provoke the 7 absolute sect, who knew if the Seven Absolute sect would attack them under Duan Lingtian's lead. For this reason he planned to look for Lang Qianjin in the Zhuangzi Buddhism's estate to discuss countermeasures against the Seven Absolute sect. In a remote mountain range in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. After so many years, Duan Lingtian has already attained such a powerful cultivation base? Before he was defeated by Duan Lingtian, Hao Shuang was widely acknowledged as the strongest person below the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. He had just broken through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage a few days ago. Initially he planned to seek revenge from Duan Lingtian. However, after he heard about how Duan Lingtian had killed Tang Xian, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, and Li Bing, a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, he immediately dismissed the idea of seeking revenge from Duan Lingtian. What a joke. Even if he had passed the heavenly tribulation and become an eminent celestial, he was still no match for Duan Lingtian, let alone the fact that he had just broken through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Not only was Duan Lingtian an eminent celestial, but he was also an eminent celestial who could kill a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. From now on I can't go against Duan Lingtian. Hao Shuang made up his mind. At the same time he completely dismissed the idea of seeking revenge from Duan Lingtian. Meanwhile, in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, those who had conflicts with Duan Lingtian had also dismissed the idea of seeking revenge from Duan Lingtian. After all, they knew it was impossible for them to win. They knew they would never be able to match up to Duan Lingtian. Even if they sought revenge from Duan Lingtian they would still die. Freak. Junior brother Lingtian's strength is too terrifying, right? He hasn't even entered the Sword Saint's secret zone yet. Initially I thought that as long as his luck isn't too bad, it wouldn't be a problem for him to kill a 6-tribulation bodiless celestial or a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial even if he doesn't possess the strength to kill an 8-tribulation bodiless celestial like Ancestor Feng Qingyang. However, it seems like if he's lucky enough to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone, he might be able to match up to Ancestor Feng Qingyang when he comes out. Gu Li, the successor of the Kratos progeny, the third absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, could not help but click his tongue when he heard about Duan Lingtian. Previously, although he did not know the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, was his junior brother Lingtian, he had heard about the Sword Saint secret zone. He knew the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny would have a heaven-defying increase in strength if he was lucky enough to enter the Sword Saint secret zone. Although he might not be able to match up to Ancestor Feng Qingyang from the Seven Absolute sect, he should not be too far off. However, now that he found out his junior brother Lingtian could easily kill 4-tribulation bodiless celestials before he even entered the Sword Saint secret zone, it was not difficult for him to imagine. When his junior brother Lingtian came out of the Sword Saint secret zone, he would definitely be able to match up to Ancestor Feng Qingyang. Ancestor Feng Qingyang from the Seven Absolute sect was someone who had killed 8-tribulation bodiless celestials when he was only an eminent celestial. Meanwhile, although the other successors of the Seven Absolute sect were in different places, they were shocked when they heard the news from the western region. Their thoughts were similar to Gu Li's. They felt Duan Lingtian had a chance of catching up to Ancestor Feng Qingyang from the Seven Absolute sect. When the news of Duan Lingtian killing Li Bing, a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial, spread throughout the Dao Martial Saint Land, more than a month had passed since Duan Lingtian had killed Li Bing. Moreover, this was the fastest time the news had spread. Many powerhouses at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage had spread the news from the central region of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Otherwise, it would have taken more than a month for the news to spread in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Dragons. Lord Di Qin, we've investigated the matter. Chapter 2378. Speak. Within the pavilion, the handsome young man swept an indifferent glance at the person outside the pavilion. When he spoke, he raised his hand and put away the guzheng that was floating in front of him. Yes. The person replied respectfully, Li Bing's return to Zoroastrianism has nothing to do with the task you've given him, Lord Di Qin. He wanted to get rid of the new sect leader of Zoroastrianism. The new sect leader of Zoroastrianism advocated not to become enemies with the Seven Absolute sect. Moreover, he even set a sect rule for this. Li Bing was very dissatisfied with this. As for what happened after that, it had nothing to do with the task you've given him, Lord Di Qin. He fought with the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, because he wanted to avenge the former sect leader of Zoroastrianism. He wanted to show off in front of the bodiless celestials from the Heaven Divination sect in Zhuangzi Buddhism. All in all, Li Bing deserved to die. When the person reached the end of his words, he came to a conclusion. Indeed, he deserved to die. The eyes of the handsome young man Di Qin, who had sent Li Bing out to handle this matter, suddenly narrowed. When he opened his mouth again, his voice had become a little colder. It made the people standing outside the pavilion feel as if winter had arrived. However, even if he deserved to die, he's still a member of Emperor Qin. Di Qin narrowed his eyes as a cold glint flashed in his eyes. As the saying goes, before you beat a dog you have to look at its owner. Since he killed my man, Di Qin, I must seek an explanation from him. As soon as Di Qin finished speaking, he disappeared from the gazebo and appeared in the sky above the valley in just a blink of an eye. Come with me to investigate Zoroastrianism. At the same time, Di Qin did not forget to call out to the person standing outside the gazebo who had come to report to him. The person who came to report to Di Qin was not a bodiless celestial from Zoroastrianism, Zhuangzi Buddhism, or the Heaven Divination sect. Like Di Qin, this person was a dragon who had transformed into a middle-aged man. Lord Di Qin. The middle-aged man trod on the air and arrived behind Emperor Qin. He couldn't help but frown as he frowned and said, "We dragons had an agreement with the Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. As long as the Seven Absolute Sect hasn't annihilated the three great sects, we dragons won't interfere in the conflict between the Seven Absolute Sect and the three great sections." This time Duan Tian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, killed Li Bing because of the conflict between the Seven Absolute Sect and Zoroastrianism. Lord Di Qin, it's inappropriate for you to act rashly. The middle-aged man said hesitantly. If the Supreme Elder and Lord Patriarch find out about this, I'm afraid they won't allow you to act in such a manner, Lord Di Qin. The middle-aged man tried to dissuade Di Qin. However, Emperor Qin coldly snorted in the face of his dissuasion. How will they know if you don't tell them? Moreover, I'm only going to look for Duan Tian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect. If he kneels down and apologizes to me, I'll only punish him lightly and forget about this matter. A hint of arrogance could be seen on Di Qin's face as he spoke. Kneel down and apologize? The middle-aged man could not help but laugh bitterly when he heard Di Qin's words. Duan Tian was the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute Sect, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect. He was also the successor of the Sword Saint. Even if the Patriarch of the Dragons personally made a move, he would not kneel down to someone like that. Lord Di Qin. The middle-aged man was about to dissuade Di Qin when Di Qin interrupted him. Shut your mouth. Follow me to the fire worship sect. If I find out that you've sent a message to the others, I won't let you off. As soon as Di Qin finished speaking, he waved his hand. Boom, boom, boom. A burst of muffled thunder-like sound resounded. Emperor Qin waved his hand, and drew out a vast and majestic invisible force. Then, he carried the middle-aged man and left the valley in the blink of an eye. He left the dragon race and left the 100,000 mountains. From afar, it looked like a streak of light that was like a meteor streaking across the night sky. It flew out of the 100,000 mountains in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land and continued to head west. At this moment, Duan Tian was completely unaware of this. After all, a month ago, after he had killed Li Bing, the Four Tribulation Bodiless Celestial, he had informed Gan Ru Yen, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, before he left the Zoroastrianism with Ker, their daughter, and Feng Qianwu to the northern region of the Seven Absolute Sect's temporary estate. Naturally, Qin Yi Ru, the Four Tribulation Bodiless Celestial, had accompanied them. As for Qin Yi Ru's two servants, since they had acknowledged Gan Ru Yen as their master, it was only natural that they would stay in the Zoroastrianism to help Gan Ru Yen. It was snowing all year long in the northern region. Halfway up one of the snowy peaks, there was a vast stone platform with a palace standing on top of it. At this moment, there were two people sitting before a square table in one of the pavilions in the palace. One of them was Duan Tian. The other person was the Oracle Man, the former successor of the Prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolute Sect. Junior Uncle Prophet, is there anything you need from me? Duan Tian asked the old man in front of him with a puzzled expression on his face. It had been almost a month since Duan Tian had arrived at the Seven Absolute Sect's temporary estate in the northern region. During this 1 month, Duan Tian had met the Oracle Man, the former successor of the Prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolute Sect, through Feng Tianwu's introduction. As for the previous successor of the Red Dust progeny, the seventh absolute of the Seven Absolute Sect, Xuanai's master, he did not meet her since she was not around. Duan Tian respected the Oracle Man, a senior in the Seven Absolute Sect. He did not look down on him even though he was stronger than him and was now the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect. During this time, Duan Lingtian learned many things from the Oracle Man. This included the matter of the old prophet asking Yu Wu-ing, the current successor of the Didymus progeny, one of the four absolutes of the Seven Absolute sect, to go to the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land to help his father in the Azure Cloud Mansion. Apart from that, he also learned that the current successors of the Didymus progeny, the sixth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, were Nangong and his brother. The Oracle Man had chosen them because of him. As for Gu Li and Feng Tianwu, they were not arranged by the Oracle Man. It was purely a coincidence. As for Han Xuanai, she was chosen by the former successor of the Red Dust progeny, the seventh absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. It had nothing to do with the Oracle Man. Apart from that, when Duan Lingtian arrived at the Seven Absolute sect's temporary estate in the northern region, the Oracle Man had immediately left to contact the former successor of the Red Dust progeny, Han Xuanai's master. He had asked her to use the mundane power of the Red Dust progeny to summon the other 5 successors of the Seven Absolute sect. The day of the Seven Absolutes reunion was just around the corner. You've been here for almost a month now? You should have rested enough, right? The Oracle Man asked as he looked at Duan Lingtian kindly. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. Today, I'm going to tell you about the Sword Saint's secret zone left behind by ancestor Feng Qingyang. The Oracle Man said bluntly. When he saw Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed slightly, he continued to say, Tianwu must have mentioned the Sword Saint's secret zone to you, but she doesn't know much about it. Today I'll tell you about the Sword Saint's secret zone. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian quickly nodded. At the same time, he listened attentively as though he was afraid he would miss out on a single word. Indeed. Before he left the Zoroastrianism, Feng Tianwu had mentioned the Sword Saint's secret zone to him. At that time he found out that the Sword Saint Feng Qingyang had left behind more than just the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword. In a place called the Sword Saint's secret zone, Feng Qingyang had left behind the legacy for him. As for whether he would be able to obtain it, it would depend on his luck. Elder brother Duan, senior uncle prophet, said that if you're lucky enough to obtain the legacy left behind by ancestor Feng Qingyang after you enter the Sword Saint's secret zone, you won't be much weaker than him even if you're not as strong as he was back then. At that time, Feng Tianwu's words had made Duan Lingtian curious about the Sword Saint's secret zone. After that, when he arrived at the temporary base of the Seven Absolute sect in the northern region and met the Oracle Man, he did not mention anything about the Sword Saint's secret zone to him. In the past few days, he had planned to ask the Oracle Man about the Sword Saint's secret zone. However, he did not expect the Oracle Man would take the initiative to ask him about the Sword Saint's secret zone. Naturally, Duan Lingtian listened attentively to the Oracle Man's words. The Sword Saint's secret zone. Following that, the Oracle Man began to introduce the Sword Saint's secret zone left behind by the Sword Saint Feng Qingyang to Duan Lingtian. The Oracle Man had a solemn expression on his face when he was introducing the Sword Saint's secret zone to Duan Lingtian. While the Oracle Man was introducing the Sword Saint's secret zone to Duan Lingtian, the Zoroastrianism in the western region was not as peaceful as it seemed. I'll wait for Duan Lingtian for 10 days. If he doesn't appear in front of me after 10 days, I'll kill you. The handsome young man said calmly as he looked at Ganru Yen, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, who was surrounded by a group of Zoroastrianism's high-ranking officials. From the beginning until the end, he did not pity the beautiful woman in front of him at all. It was as though he was cold-blooded and heartless. After he finished speaking, he did not hesitate to bring the middle-aged man behind him to Ganru Yan's cultivation place. It was the highest floating island in the sky above the saint land of Zoroastrianism. They found a large courtyard on the island as their resting place. It was as though they were treating this place as their own home. From the beginning until the end, Ganru Yen and the others did not even dare to breathe. Chapter 2379. That young man. Who is he? Just a servant following behind him has such powerful strength. Lung Ying said solemnly. That's right. He's too strong. With just a casual strike of his palm, he killed the powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage beside sect leader before he even had a chance to react. Hong Yun nodded. She could not help but feel helpless when she recalled the scene earlier. That young man is at least a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. At this moment, the burly middle-aged man standing behind Ganru Yen, the companion of the skinny middle-aged man, said with a grim expression on his face. Among the people present on the scene, his judgment was the most authoritative. After all, even Zifeng, the strongest high-ranking official from Zoroastrianism, was inferior to him in terms of cultivation base. Because of this, everyone firmly believed in his judgment. Heavens, the three tribulation bodiless celestial? Yes, he's at least a three tribulation bodiless celestial. In other words, that middle-aged man might be a four tribulation bodiless celestial or even a five tribulation bodiless celestial. Who's that young man to have a three tribulation bodiless celestial as his servant? The high-ranking officials from Zoroastrianism discussed among themselves. Their eyes were filled with fear and dread. Initially, I thought eminent celestials were the strongest in the Tao martial saint land. However, it seems like eminent celestials are nothing compared to bodiless celestials. In front of those powerful bodiless celestials, even eminent celestials are insignificant. I didn't expect someone who failed the heavenly tribulation would have a chance to become a bodiless celestial. The four guardians of Zoroastrianism looked at Gan Ruyen. Ruyen let him know. Qinghua looked at Gan Ruyen and said, "Let's wait for a while." Gan Ruyen shook her head. "I have 10 days. I'll think about it." "What's there to consider? Human lives are at stake." Qinghua said anxiously. "What if he is no match for them?" Gan Ruyen and Qinghua looked at each other. Their beautiful faces tightened slightly and they smiled sadly. If Duan Lingtian wasn't a match for those two, wouldn't she be harming Duan Lingtian if she rashly called Duan Lingtian back? Not to mention she liked Duan Lingtian now. Even if she didn't like Duan Lingtian, it was impossible for her to harm Duan Lingtian just to survive. Duan Lingtian was her sister's husband and her niece's father. Ruyen. Qinghua wanted to say something but he was interrupted by Gan Ruyen. "Master, you don't have to persuade me. I've already said I'll think about it." This was the first time Gan Ruyen had interrupted Qinghua since she became his disciple. As soon as she finished speaking, she flew into Qinghua's cultivation place without waiting for his reply. As for the place where she cultivated, it was currently occupied by the two mysterious experts. She did not dare to rashly barge in. Who knew if they would be displeased by this? Perhaps they would not kill her within 10 days. However, she did not want them to vent their anger on the other members of Zoroastrianism. She was now the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. She could not watch the members of Zoroastrianism die. Sigh. Qinghua was not angered by Gan Ruyen's earlier words. This was because he knew Gan Ruyen very well. He could not help but sigh inwardly. "This girl is too kind, Lord Guardian." At this time, one of the vice-sect leaders of Zoroastrianism looked at Qinghua and asked solemnly, "If Lord Sect Leader insists on not informing Lord Duan Lingtian about this matter, those two people will definitely kill Lord Sect Leader in 10 days. After that, they might even vent their anger on Zoroastrianism." The vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism voiced the thoughts of most of the high-ranking members of Zoroastrianism present on the scene. All of a sudden, their gazes landed on Qinghua as if they were waiting for Qinghua's response. "What? Are all of you worried that sect leader will harm our Zoroastrianism?" Qinghua was already in a bad mood. When he heard the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism's words, he could not help but show his anger and rebuke him loudly. When Qinghua rebuked the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism, the burly middle-aged man who was about to follow Gan Ruyen turned around and glared at the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism coldly. "Please show mercy." Just as Protector Zifeng sensed the commotion from the burly middle-aged man's side, he subconsciously shouted, "Bang!" A loud explosion rang in the air. The burly middle-aged man had struck out with his palm. Instantly, a palm print shot out and killed the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism before anyone could react. This scene was very similar to the scene where the middle-aged man behind the mysterious young man killed the burly middle-aged man's companion with a single strike. Whether it was the middle-aged man who killed the skinny middle-aged man or the burly middle-aged man who killed the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism, it was as easy as blowing off dust. If anyone dares to disrespect my master again, they'll end up like him. The burly middle-aged man entered Qinghua's cultivation place under the fearful gaze of the high-ranking officials from Zoroastrianism. They only regained their senses when the burly middle-aged man's figure disappeared from their sight. All of them gasped. Qinghua was stunned for a moment before he smiled wryly. Although the burly middle-aged man had vented his anger by killing the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism, as a guardian of Zoroastrianism, he felt it was a pity that the Zoroastrianism had lost a powerhouse at the sixth form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, he knew it was not his place to interfere with the burly middle-aged man's actions. The burly middle-aged man only acknowledged one master, his direct disciple, Gan Ruyen. As for the other three guardians of Zoroastrianism, they looked at each other before they shook their heads and sighed helplessly. As for the other high-ranking officials in the fire worship sect, they remained silent. None of them dared to speak. Let's disperse. Upon hearing Zifeng's words, the high-ranking officials from Zoroastrianism finally dispersed as though a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. At this moment, no matter how sullen they felt, they did not dare to say a word. Guardian Qinghua. After most of the people had left, Zifeng looked at Qinghua with a solemn expression and said solemnly, although his words are a little frightening, it's very likely that it'll come true. Guardian Qinghua you. When Guardian Ling Tian left, he gave me a communication jade token. Duan Ling Tian muttered to himself. Qinghua naturally knew what Zifeng wanted to say, and he bluntly interrupted Zifeng. He seemed to have guessed since the beginning that even if that little girl, Ru Yan, encountered some sort of trouble, it was very unlikely that she would look for him. So, he left me a voice transmission jade slip and told me to inform him through it if anything happened. The eyes of the three guardians of Zoroastrianism, including Zifeng, lit up when Qinghua took out a communication jade token that Duan Ling Tian had inscribed himself. It could be used to transmit his voice through the communication jade token. Guardian Ling Tian. After that, Qinghua told Duan Ling Tian everything about the mysterious young man and his servant before he sent it to Duan Ling Tian through the jade token in his hand. Ruyan, don't blame Master. He's doing this for your own good. Qinghua could not help but sigh inwardly as he crushed the communication jade token. Moreover, I've also told Ling Tian that the mysterious young man's servant is at least a three-tribulation bodiless celestial. I've also told him not to come back if he's not confident. In the northern region on the snow-capped peaks all year round, Duan Ling Tian and Kerr stood side by side in a pavilion on a vast stone platform halfway up the mountain. They were admiring the beautiful snowy scenery outside. Naturally, the two women who were having a snowball fight were also admiring the scenery. Auntie Tianwu, I hit you again. Sealing's amazing. Auntie Tianwu won't go easy on you next time. You have to be careful. Come on. I'm not afraid. Duan Ling Tian and Kerr could not help but turn to look at the source of the voices. Sealing seems to like Sister Tianwu a lot. Kerr said with a smile on her face. Yes. Duan Ling Tian nodded with a smile on his face. However, in the next moment he seemed to have sensed something. The smile on his face froze immediately. Whoosh. At the same time he took out a jade token. Whoosh. As soon as he took out the jade token, a translucent ray of light shot toward him from the southwest direction and entered the jade token in his hand. It's a message from Zoroastrianism. Kerr had also noticed the commotion at Duan Ling Tian's side. She immediately looked at Duan Ling Tian and asked, Brother Tian, is it from sister? A worried expression appeared on Kerr's face when she asked this question. Crack. As soon as Kerr finished speaking, Duan Ling Tian crushed the jade token in his hand. An old voice rang in the air immediately. It's Guardian Qinghua. Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed when he heard the voice. Duan Ling Tian narrowed his eyes when he heard Qinghua's words. The mysterious young man has a servant who's at least a three-tribulation bodiless celestial? Moreover, he knows about the Zoroastrianism and Gan Ruyan's relationship with me? That person should be someone from the Dragon Clan. He must be the person behind Li Bing whom I killed that day. However, didn't Sandao say the dragons wouldn't interfere if I killed Li Bing? Duan Ling Tian's expression darkened immediately. Sister. Chapter 2380. Duan Ling Tian had just returned to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Lan not long ago. Moreover, he did not have much interaction with bodiless celestials when he was still in the upper province. For this reason, it was not difficult for Duan Ling Tian to guess what was going on when he received the message from Qinghua. The mysterious young man who had a servant with a cultivation base at the three-tribulation bodiless celestial was most likely from the dragons. Moreover, the young man had come to investigate him for killing Li Bing. Duan Ling Tian was not surprised that the mysterious young man knew he was the one who killed Li Bing. After all, when he killed Li Bing, he had sensed the aura of the mirror image talisman on Li Bing's body. Therefore, he knew the scene of Li Bing's death was likely transmitted to another person through the minor-major mirror image talisman. That person was most likely from the dragons who supported Li Bing. According to Sandao, after the bodiless celestials from the three great sects are grounded by the Dragon Clan, unless they find a backer in the Dragon Clan, it's very difficult for them to leave the Dragon Clan. Of course, I'm only leaving the Dragon Clan temporarily. Sandao speculates that Li Bing must have a backer in the Dragon sect. That's why he's able to leave the Dragon sect temporarily. As for his arrogance in the Zoroastrianism, it's probably because he did it behind the backs of his backers in the Dragon sect. Based on the agreement between the Dragon Sect and Senior Feng Qingyang, Li Bing's death can only be considered as a dispute between the Dragon Sect and the Seven Absolute Sect. The dragons have no reason to interfere. For this reason, Duan Lingtian was puzzled. Why was the Dragon Sect looking for him? Could it be that the Dragon Sect had forgotten the agreement between the Dragon Sect and Senior Feng Qingyang? Kurt, don't worry. I won't let anything happen to your sister. Duan Lingtian looked at the worried Kerr and said, I'll go find Sandao now. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he was about to leave when Kerr called out to him. Brother Tian. Duan Lingtian looked at Kerr in confusion. Brother Tian, Qinghua also said in the message. If you don't have the confidence, don't return to Zoroastrianism. Kerr looked at Duan Lingtian and said seriously. Although she was worried about her sister's safety, she was also worried about her man's safety. If she had to use her man's life to exchange for her sister's life, she would rather die than agree. Don't worry, I know what to do. Duan Lingtian comforted Kerr with a smile before he left to look for his servant, Chen Sandao, Chen Yiru. Kerr was the only one left standing in the same spot. She looked dejected. I'm still too weak. This was not the first time Kerr despised her strength. As she muttered to herself, she seemed to have thought of something. Her eyes were filled with determination. I've only tried that method once. However, I couldn't take it anymore. This time I must persevere. As long as I persevere, my strength will definitely increase rapidly in a short period of time. There was a secret in Kuer's heart that only she knew. To prevent others from worrying about her, even her man Duan Lingtian and her sister Ganru Yen did not know about this secret. Back when she was still imprisoned in the Zoroastrianism law enforcement hall. One day, an unintentional thought of hers actually caused her soul to ignite. She could still remember the excruciating pain that came from her soul. Although the burning of her soul did not last long, she discovered that her cultivation base had increased tremendously. His cultivation base had strangely increased by several levels. At that time, she knew she could use the burning of her soul to increase her cultivation base and strength quickly. After that, she experimented a few times and mastered the trick of burning her soul. However, she did not try it again. This was because the pain was too great and the price she had to pay was too high. It was too much for her to bear. She did not have the courage to try it again. However, today she had made up her mind to burn her soul again to increase her cultivation base and strength in a short period of time. This was the only way she would not be like a useless person who could not do anything when the people she cared about the most were in danger. That time after my soul seemed to have been set ablaze, other than the pain, there seemed to be some memory fragments in my memory, and those memory fragments were all scenes that I had never seen before. Thinking back to the first time she burned her soul and the memory fragments that appeared in her mind, Kuer couldn't help but guess. Perhaps it has something to do with the fact that the former sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Tang Xian, mentioned that I'm the reincarnation of a goddess. Back then, the former sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Tang Xian, had sworn on the lightning penalty oath to confirm that she was the reincarnation of a goddess. Even if she did not dare to believe it, she had no choice but to believe it. Perhaps, when my soul burns to a certain extent, I'll be able to recover all my memories from my previous life. After confirming that she was the reincarnation of a goddess, Kerr had been very curious about her previous life. She wanted to know what kind of person she was in her previous life, why she was reincarnated, and why she was reincarnated in this mundane realm. She also wanted to know what her cousin from her previous life was trying to do. It was as though a seed of curiosity had been planted in her heart. It took root and sprouted and it could not be stopped. This time I must persevere for a while. While I'm improving my cultivation base, I'll be able to recover more of my memories from my previous life. A hint of determination flashed in Kerr's eyes as she left the pavilion and returned to her room to cultivate. It doesn't matter if I recover my memories from my previous life or not. I'm still Kerr, Brother Tian's wife, my sister's sister and Si Ling's mother. After returning to her room, Kerr was prepared to undergo the excruciating process of burning her soul again. At the same time, she kept repeating this thought in her heart, her willpower incomparably firm. The reason she was so determined was because she was worried. She was worried that she would lose her memories of this life after she recovered all her memories from her previous life. Kerr sat cross-legged on her bed with her eyes closed. At first, her beautiful cheeks were calm, and her body was almost motionless as she maintained her cross-legged sitting posture. However, soon after, her body began to tremble slightly. Her originally calm and beautiful face also began to twitch, and the frequency of it became more and more exaggerated. In the end, she was even sweating like rain. Ding, ding, ding. Unknowingly, Kerr was gritting her teeth so hard that it made a clattering sound. In the end, there was even a trace of blood at the corner of Kerr's mouth. All of this was just Kerr's current appearance. At this moment, Kerr felt as though her soul was about to be completely burned away. Her consciousness was gradually becoming blurry. She was almost annihilated again and again. However, in the end, she gritted her teeth and persevered. During this process, Kerr's memory was filled with more fragments. In these fragments there was a peerless beauty. As long as she was around, no matter if it was a man or a woman, there would be few who would not look at her. She was like the brightest star in the night sky, constantly attracting people's attention. Moreover, this peerless beauty was not a flower vase. She had the power to overturn the heavens and the earth, topple the mountains and overturn the seas. With just a wave of her hand, the sky and the earth would change color. The sun and the moon shone brightly. A forest with a circumference of 100,000 miles was turned into a huge crater. This is me from my past life? When Kerr saw these fragments, she was shocked. The peerless beauty in the fragments possessed a strength that she did not even dare to think about in the past. Even the strongest 9 tribulation bodiless celestial in the mundane realm would not be able to compare to her strength, right? When she saw the scene of that peerless beauty making her move in the memory fragment, Ku'er was shocked, and at the same time, a thought involuntarily surfaced in her mind. Persevere, persevere. As long as I persevere, no one in the mundane realm will be able to threaten Brother Tian. No one will be able to threaten my family. As her consciousness turned blurry again and again, Ku'er's willpower grew stronger and stronger. Her thirst for power was unprecedentedly strong. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was unaware of the pain Kerr was in. He was also unaware that Kerr could lose her consciousness at any time. Otherwise he would have stopped Kerr at all costs. Master, as far as I know, the members of the dragon tribe always keep their promises. Moreover, this is an agreement between their ancestor and senior Feng Qingyang. Logically speaking, even if they're dissatisfied with Li Bing's decision, they can only grit their teeth and swallow their anger because they're in the wrong. Chen Yiru said solemnly after he learned the truth from his master, Duan Lingtian. Based on what you've said, the mysterious young man is most likely a member of the dragons. Chen Yiru said. What do you think we should do now? Duan Lingtian asked. Go to Zoroastrianism. Stop him. Tell him to go back to the dragons. A light flashed in Chen Yiru's eyes as he coldly snorted. If news of Li Bing being killed by you and this dragon clan member coming to avenge Li Bing spreads, the dragon clan will go down in infamy for thousands of years. For this reason, the dragons won't dare to avenge Li Bing unless they have absolute confidence in sealing the news. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.